Oh, they did. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, February 17th. Just one study session item for tonight. We have our Deputy City Manager Tim Dodd, our City Manager Intern Colton Zadkovic, and city staff here to provide council direction on proposed strategic plan outcomes, goals, community prioritization structure regarding the strategic plan projects. Good evening, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. Glad to be here with you tonight. So you just went over the contents of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So this is our second formal check-in with all of you on the strategic plan. It's important to note, of course, this is your plan. So we do have a scoped out schedule of when we would like to be able to deliver the final one to you. But of course, if you'd like more time than tonight or some of the other check-ins, please just let us know. As you'll recall, we started this process with a survey where we had about 300 community members engage. We had 36 community members at focus groups. We then brought that to you at your retreat. At your retreat, you'll recall you came up with 5 outcomes or 5 big buckets of areas you wanted to focus on, as well as about 35 or so goals. We then, after the retreat, went back to the community with your guidance and a second survey. We had 139 responses that closed last Wednesday, February 11th. That survey really asked 3 questions that Colton's going to be going over. One of them was basically, did we forget anything from the strategic plan? A second one was about sense of place and affordability, and if those should stay in livability. And then the third one was about prioritizing the outcomes in the plan. Tonight, as you mentioned, Mayor, the goals for tonight really are to get your input on the final structure of the plan. We have a few more check-ins with you planned, but tonight we want to make sure that we can get hopefully a direction from you around priorities, outcomes, goals, and the overall plan structure. And then the idea is that in the next couple of weeks, we'll be working with departments to develop performance metrics and projects. And then the idea is to bring back a draft plan for you to review on March 9th. And then on March 16th, we will plan on having it for you up for adoption and consideration by you. So now I'm going to turn it over to Colton, who's going to walk us through the council retreat recap and go over the survey results.
Thanks, Tim. Just to briefly go over the retreat that happened at the end of January to remind you all, we had a facilitated discussion led by Nick Kittle, our facilitator, and in that discussion, we initially identified the 5 focus groups, and then we split into kind of breakout groups with the big white pads, where each group under each focus area identified goals for that bigger kind of bucket. To start, the 5 outcome areas included economic vitality, infrastructure, livability, public service delivery, and safety. Recapping both of the surveys that we put out to really lead this process. The first community survey started in December, ended in January before the council retreat. This survey had 300 total responses, and ultimately what we learned, I've condensed down to the fact that residents prioritize the city's local economy, they prioritize small businesses, as well as their neighborhood connections. Housing affordability and the unhoused population are top concerns, and the community's long-term vision for Englewood is a city that is community-centered, vibrant, walkable, safe, and affordable. The second survey went out after the council retreat, as Tim mentioned, 139 total responses, 91 responses to open-ended questions, and then this basically using statistics, we have a 8% margin of error here at a 95% confidence level. Basically, this just tells us that the amount of responses we receive for this survey are adequate for providing directional insight, and ultimately we need, of course, council's final decision to take that directional insight and make the final decision. The first question we asked residents was to rank the outcome areas in order of their priority. On the right-hand side of this slide, oops, sorry. Oh, I've been switching my slides now. Sorry. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the average ranking that residents put together. Livability came out on top, and then livability through safety are pretty close together, with public service delivery coming in as the least prioritized focus area. For this slide, I also put on the left-hand side the number of number 1 priority rankings. I think this is important to consider as well because residents are people in general can just a lot of the time say, well, this is my priority, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5, just fill those in relatively quickly. So livability still came out on top, but the interesting thing here is safety jumps up to number 2 in terms of number 1 priority rankings, with economic vitality, infrastructure, and public service delivery following. We then asked residents to sort through the livability focus area, because after the council retreat, we all kind of recognized that it was potentially bloated, a little big of a category. So we wanted to ask residents if they felt similarly, if they felt like it should remain its own focus area. So option 1 was that affordability and sense of place should remain in livability. Option 2 is that affordability becomes its own outcome area, sense of place remains in livability. Option 3 is that sense of place becomes its own outcome area, but affordability remains in livability. And then option 4 is that both of them become their own outcome areas. Condensing all of this into a succinct analysis, 56% support separating affordability. You can glean that from combining option 2 and option 4, where affordability becomes its own outcome area and they both become one. You have 56% supporting affordability becoming its own. Again, that's considering the margin of error here. That's a minimal majority, but still a majority. You have 33% support for separating sense of place. And then you have 36% support for keeping both in livability. So there will have to be a decision here. The third question we asked in this survey was if residents felt like there was any missing areas. The top missing area the residents felt, we took all these open response questions and kind of categorized them. The top category was sustainability with 17 mentions. And you had housing stability and affordability, 11 mentions. The fact that I think affordability is here as well as it is in we asked in question 2, should affordability become its own outcome area? And then in question 3 of it being the second most popular response for missing areas, that perhaps lends it more credibility as being its own focus area. And then transportation was the third most popular response there with 10 mentions. There is a more detailed, there of course were more missing areas that residents felt like, but these were just the top 3. There's a more detailed report in your packet. I'll bring Tim back up to overview the council direction.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Colton. So yeah, as Colton mentioned, I'm now going to start walking through some areas where we're going to be seeking direction from council. So this slide just is a summary slide of the 5 areas we're going to be asking council to provide direction this evening. I am going to cover the first 2, and then Colton's going to do the middle 2, and then I will do the last one. So the first one is just the structure of the plan. The second is, again, the list of outcomes, outcome prioritization, goals, and then a strategic plan expiration date. So first on the structure, so one thing I've realized having done this a few other places is a lot of these words and terms are common. Sometimes plans use theme instead of outcome. Some use strategic goals instead of goals. We really can go with whatever direction council would like, but this slide basically just shows the structure we have used in the plan in the past. It's the structure that we have been using to build out the next plan. But before we get any further, we just wanted to do a check with you to make sure you're okay with our terminology, and if you have any suggestions just in the overall structure. So just to review really quickly, outcomes are the highest level. They're set exclusively by council. They're meant to be thematic, goal, large areas of focus. Usually everything a city does should be able to track to one of these. Goals, again, set by council. They're meant to be more specific, areas of focus within each outcome. Projects, and we're really working this year to get stronger in terms of how we describe projects. They're really meant to be discrete, one-time actions that are measurable, that are very specific, that can be accomplished by the end of the year. I think we've come a long way with this, but we still have some projects that really are a little bit too open-ended. Performance metrics, and this is a question that came up a little bit during the retreat, but the way I think about it is that projects and performance metrics and projects in development really are nested under the goal, and they're all meant to drive towards the goal. So a project is meant to be a one-time gap type of thing that we're not currently doing that we need to do to get to the goal. A performance metric is measuring really more programs that are ongoing, things that we've done for a long time, their efficiency and effectiveness metrics. And then a couple of years ago, Mayor Pro Tem Anderson had the great idea of adding projects in development. These are projects that usually start with something like explore, consider, and they're meant to be things that the direction from council in the past is staff should work on if we have time, but not to prioritize. So I'll just stop here and see if you have any direction on any changes you'd like to make in the structure.
Thank you very much, Tim. Any questions or comments regarding just the strategic plan structure? I think I'm fine with the current structure. Member Praying, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that, so I'm glad you clarified on the performance metric that that's more of kind of ongoing existing stuff and it's not specific to the project. But I kind of think it's a little confusing. I mean, so typically if you're kind of walking down these areas, I think all of them make sense. But when I'm reading performance metric, I would associate that with a project that we're working on. Is there something else that we can call that to make it clear that that's distinct from specific one-time projects that we're working on?
Yeah, it's a great question, Member Praying, and I often when I talk to staff about this, I often think about, a project is the first step, and then once it's completed, a performance metric kind of kicks into gear to basically measure how well we did that thing in the long term. So yeah, we could definitely change it however you would like. We could call it like program measurement, or I don't know if you'd like to see program in the name to kind of make it distinct from project. Or...
Yeah, I'm not really sure I have a great idea for it, and maybe one of my fellow council members will have some thoughts for it too. I can see where a project would then lead to a performance metric, but would we have a circumstance where a performance metric is not necessarily tracking to a project, but it's an existing ongoing, like something that we always want to be doing well within the strategic plan?
Yeah, thank you, Member Praying. So for example, like I met with Public Works today, and they have metrics like things about how quickly we fill potholes, metrics around permitting times and things like that. And so yes, so many of the metrics are not tied to or didn't start as projects in this plan. They started probably many years ago, whenever those things started. So.
Okay. Again, I don't have any brilliant idea right off the top of my head. I'm happy to think on it more unless someone else has something to add to that.
Member Prang, are you thinking like a baseline metric, or just trying to think? You don't have to answer right now, so.
Yeah, I think I want to give it some more thought just to make it more distinct, because I do think that residents should know that we're tracking things differently. Like this is this one specific project that we're working on. It's new, it's fresh from this new strategic plan, but here are some ongoing metrics that we continue to track to make sure that we're doing well as a governing body.
I was almost thinking ongoing metric was what I was thinking, or something like a statement metric, or something that kind of just shows that it's been. I don't know. I'll wordsmith it, but those are my initial thoughts. Well, thank you very much for that, Member Praying. Member Bethel.
In the corporate terminology lexicon, there's KPIs, key performance indicators, that can be useful sometimes, or objectives and key results is another popular TLA. Both of which kind of have their pros and cons.
I kind of like that second option, actually.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Anyone else regarding strategic plan structure? All right, I think we're good there. I don't see any objection to the current structure other than the wordsmithing of how to capture the metric.
Great, yeah, thank you for that direction. All right, so the next slide, this is where we're probably going to get into more discussion starting here and then following through. So as you'll recall, on the left, that box there, that has the 5 outcome areas that you developed as part of the retreat. We also on this slide included some data points that Colton went over, so that you have that kind of at your fingertips or at your view while you're discussing this. But on this slide, we'd like to ask you to provide us with some decisions and direction on whether you'd like to keep just these 5 areas, or whether you'd like to change any of them or move anything around. Or, and I should say too, again, we can come back as many times as you want. We're playing right now and coming back 2 more times. But if you want to spend more time on this, that's also whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you very much, Tim. Anyone want to kick us off? Go ahead, Member Bethel.
I would love to add sustainability as a key outcome area. I think that it's robust enough, has enough opportunity, and important enough to our community that it can handle its own outcome area.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Member Pring?
Of course, I'm sure you would know that I'm going to suggest that we separate affordability into its own category. I had that thinking at our retreat, and it's pretty validating to see the different levels of response that came from the community around this. I just think it makes sense to call it out on its own and not have it get swallowed up and lost in livability, and have it not also only speak to housing around affordability. I would support Member Bethel's suggestion on sustainability as well.
Thank you very much, Member Pring. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would be fine with making sustainability its own outcome area as well. And I would be in favor of keeping affordability and livability, as probably surprises no one as well here. And I would also note that 56% is within the margin of error, so it's a statistical tie.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Actually, my preference is to keep affordability within livability, but the way that I see it, option 2, 3, and 4 are all asking for change. So when I go back a couple slides, where affordability is in place, that's basically the status quo, only 48 votes for that, but then when you add up option 2, 3, and 4, each of them are asking for some type of change to what we came up with during the retreat. I have a little bit of concern about just having affordability as its own metric, but I can understand as its own outcome. Well, I'll just defer to the rest of the council and see where we're at. I can make it its own outcome, but I just have pause about it as I did on that evening. Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. I would be okay with leaving affordability in livability. And the reason is, I think that affordability in the near future could be happening. And then, and it does impact livability also. I think if we get too separated out, then the affordability then could be one of the separate pieces of livability. Because we made goals for each thing, so it would still have its own focus under livability. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Member Russell. I'll go to Member Ward and then back to you, Member Pring. Go ahead, Member Ward.
I'm just curious how we square the results of the survey where we have affordability mentioned by 11 people as a potential missing outcome area. And then the earlier question, we have 56% of the votes suggesting that affordability be moved. Those answers seem very different to me. You might turn it off.
Sorry. Thanks for the question. I think, yeah, the issue there is maybe people just reaffirming their support for affordability in question 3. And I would assume people that put affordability as a missing area also in question 2 said separate it out. So I don't think question 3 just asked residents in general what is missing. So that would be my reading of the survey data, is that those 11 responses are just them doubling support for affordability, if that makes sense.
Okay, so that question was an open-ended question where they had to type in the answer?
Yes.
Okay, that makes a little sense to me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm on the fence about affordability. I personally don't believe that it's important, but it would appear to me that our community does.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I don't think it's important is not because I'm some guy who's sleeping on a mattress full of cash. It's because I don't think that it's something that government controls. But maybe our community does, and we need to do a better job of communicating whether or not government actually controls that and what we're doing to control it.
Right. Thank you, Member Ward. Member Pring.
Um, I'm just trying to figure out the reasoning. I guess we have a couple of mayor and mayor pro tem who are not in favor of shifting this over. And I didn't really hear, other than some statistical whatever that happened there, what the reasoning behind that is. And I guess in response to Member Russell, um, affordability may come around soon, but right now people are not feeling that. And I think that it's clear from the responses that we've had both rounds on the surveys that that's of concern in our community. And as much as maybe I do believe that government has some hand in creating a city that is affordable to live in. We can't help manage people's personal finances, but we certainly can have policies in place that support sustainable living within the city. And so I'm just trying to get my head around why, with it being mentioned so often, and it seems to be something that we've focused on in the past, especially around housing, what the resistance to making that its own category is.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to go first, and then I can chime in?
Sure. Yeah. Um, I like the category of livability as kind of an out, like we're calling it an outcome area, and I think affordability fits nicely under that. I don't think affordability is big enough to kind of capture as many things as we're trying to capture within the different outcome areas, and so I think it's better to put it where it fits in general. I would also say that while I don't think the government controls affordability directly, I do think there are some indirect things that we can do to make the city, like the city could encourage or foster a food co-op somewhere or something like that, or or encourage a food bank. Some different things that the city could do. But to me, those are all aspects of livability, and I don't think affordability rises above walkability or bikeability or connection with neighbors or those kind of things. I think it's one of many important things. So that's why I would leave it there. And back to the statistical thing, the margin of error when you have 100, I think it was 133 total voters for a city of 35,000 comes out to about 8.5%. So that means that we don't know if we would have asked everybody in the city, it might have been 56%, but it might have been for 56% the other way too in reality. So that's why I mentioned that.
And I'll chime in. So the hesitation that I have with it is actually a little bit different. I think it could be weaponized against us whenever we decide to make decisions regarding things that we are able to control, like fees. So, and maybe weaponized is too strong a word. It's just, but basically, just the fact that we can hear pushback on whether or not, if there's a need to ever increase the fees on water, stormwater, or sewer in the future based on new infrastructure. Are we lending to more affordability within the city itself? Is that going to be used as a basis? But I agree with you. Like, we're doing things that are trying to address the issue of affordability with the number of housing units that we have stated to the state that we are looking to build across the city over the next whatever the time frame was. We, if we want to have metrics about ADUs being built or those type of things, I can see some of the outcome or the prioritization that we would do under affordability. I guess I'm just more worried about the fact that it could be used against us whenever we're discussing specific projects or fees or anything else around the city that increases the cost somewhat for our citizens. That's ultimately the reason why I'm kind of hesitant on it. Go ahead, Member Frank.
Yes, sorry, thank you. I appreciate both of those answers. I think that helps me understand your thinking a little bit better. I guess I'm just going to still push back a little bit in that it's our job to do the hard work of having those tough conversations and being able to articulate to the community why we have to increase fees, etc. And I guess I just view, like, if we're not going to pull affordability out into its own area, then I can't bring myself to be supportive of pulling sustainability out. Sustainability, walkability, all of those types of things are things that, in my opinion, are like enhancements, and they're very important things, and we should be working on them within the city, but they're almost luxuries outside of, people who maybe struggle to make things work day to day and want to remain in a city like Englewood, or our senior citizens who might have fixed incomes who are trying to stay in Englewood. I think that affordability is more of a core value that we should have our eye on and do the hard work around and have the tough conversations around. And then those other pieces are, stuff that we should also be working on, but are a little more secondary in my mind.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. I think, do we want to, I think that may be a good segue to go into the next area, Tim, because I think that's exactly what prioritizing the outcomes is going to be one of the steps that we're taking here tonight as well. But I'll lead you to it because I agree with you, Member Prang. I think the affordability, livability aspect to me is something that rises to the top that I'm looking for in terms of what I'm looking to provide for our citizenship. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this next slide, as you mentioned, is our next area, which is prioritization. So I will say of all the areas, this is probably the one that if you'd like to wait, we could wait on it and still stick to the calendar. But the idea was we present here the data that we have around the prioritization that came from the community during the survey. I think the idea here is that we would have a full complement of outcomes when we prioritize them. The prioritization really is important to us from a budgeting point of view. As you know, it is one of the things that we utilize to determine priorities for capital improvement program or CIP projects that we bring to you. And also when we get budget enhancement requests, or for the operating budget, if there's a request to do something that's additive, we have to go through a process that's prioritized to this. So we're happy to have that conversation tonight, or happy to do it at a different time if you'd like, or in a different way, like through a survey.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. I just have a question. So obviously, the budget has already been established. So when we finally settle on this, how is that going to impact the budget that we approve?
Yeah, so the idea is that it will influence the next budget, so the 2027 budget. So the finance department's actually kind of reached out to me a couple times to ask if we have this data because it is something that they share with departments. And so the main thing, Member Russell, that it's utilized for with the operating budget is when we get what we call enhancements. So if a department says, I want to add this position or I want to add this program, we filter it, and we filter it based on these priorities that you provide us. So if, let's say, theoretically, you rank economic vitality last, and you rank infrastructure first, and community development says, we want to add another position involving economic development, our filtering of that wouldn't rank it as high to bring to you as something that tied to infrastructure, which would be your top priority.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody want to continue to have this conversation this evening or have initial thoughts regarding prioritization? I could give my thoughts on this, and then we could punt it to whether or not we want to do a survey on this aspect of it. But actually, so for me, public service delivery would actually be number one, because that to me is the trust of government. Without the trust of government, that anything else that we happen to do may not be wouldn't be as important. So I actually would have public service delivery 1, then livability, followed closely by safety as 2 and 3, and then economic vitality and infrastructure. I know infrastructure kind of goes in with livability in the way that I'm kind of thinking about it, but I'm just, obviously they're outcome areas, so they all have a lot of weight associated with them. But in terms of just the way that I see it, like the trust of government has to be 1, and then everything falls right below that. And if we do have sustainability as an outcome area, that would be the 6th one for me. I'm going to look to my right. So Member Bethel or Member Ward, I'm not sure who was first. I'll go with you, Member Bethel. Go ahead.
I'll hop in real quick. I think that public service delivery is one of those items where it might be ranked lower until it's neglected, right? So the fact that it's ranked so low means probably that we're doing a good job, that everyone's receiving these services. If we fail at it, it becomes number one. And I think that we need to, make sure it's a high priority so that we continue to deliver at the utmost, as you said, and deliver that trust in government. I'd also add that livability is such a large envelope that I'd like to see it remain in the top two, because there's so many facets to it and there's so many potential results, especially if affordability continues to be in livability or if we break it out in its own.
Sounds good. Member Ward?
I appreciate Member Bethel's optimistic view of why public service delivery is so low, because I was thinking that maybe we missed the mark when we named it. You said something, Mayor Sierra, that I think may capture the idea more than what we currently have, which is protecting and building the public trust. That trust word is a very, very powerful word. And I think that's really what we're working towards, is being good stewards of what the public has entrusted us with. So maybe we consider renaming that, but I do agree, as a member of council, that is my number one priority, is does the city fundamentally do what the people pay it to do?
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Russell, I saw you leaning. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I actually, it really troubles me that safety is down at the bottom. When we were at the strategic planning meeting, there was, I don't know where the survey came from, but the last citizen survey, safety continually goes down, and people in this city do not feel safe. I think safety needs to be number one. I think infrastructure needs to be number two. As we keep increasing density, we don't have the infrastructure to handle it. And so that's why I think those two need to be near the top. I think that I agree with the discussion about public service delivery and trust. But I think that trust is built through every decision that we make on this board, not just those. But I would like to see safety moved way up to the top and infrastructure be near the top as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Go ahead, Member Pring.
I think it's a tough ask because there are many different ways that you can approach this. I do think the core pieces of what we do and what we should be doing well every day, whatever we're calling that, is, especially when we're talking FTE and stuff like that, where the priority should be. I don't want to have, something that's within livability that feels good and it's, kind of an added bonus to the city, drive off our prioritization of core staff needs to get our core functions done, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's other lenses that you could look at that prioritization, but I do think, maintaining strength in those core pieces of what we do, I don't know, it's so difficult. I mean, livability should definitely be highly prioritized, but I agree with some of what Member Russell said around safety and infrastructure. I'm not sure that I'm on board with fully the density piece of the conversation, but we do need to continuously improve our infrastructure and keep an eye on that and make sure that we're funding things like our cybersecurity engineer and things like that we've learned to prioritize over the last year. So I don't know. I would almost have public service delivery and then safety, infrastructure, and livability are pretty much equal for me in my mind as far as prioritization.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I would just go with this prioritization. I mean, I can see a case for moving a couple here and there, but in my mind, this is what the citizens are saying is their priority. And I think when we're talking about priority, like all of these are our top 5 priorities. So it's not like we're deprioritizing any of them. It's just when people look at the city, they are saying, within the statistical margin of error, at least, that livability is the most the most important thing, and to them right now. And I think this could change over time if you did another survey in a few years. And so, I don't see any reason to change this, but also I don't think it's that big of a deal because I don't think we're going to deprioritize any of these.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Go ahead, Member Russell.
And I kind of hear what you're saying, Mayor Pro Tem. However, the priority level that gets set is where staff puts the money. And so if we don't make a decision, then we're defaulting. And actually, before you were saying it's only 8% of the public that decided this. And if we had a lot more than 139 people, we might have a totally different outcome. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor,
Thanks for the feedback. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, if okay, if I just ask, so what we could do on this priority, I could put together what you just shared with me. We could send it back. We could ask you to do a survey and kind of vote that way, or we can table this to the next time we come in front of you. How would you?
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I have an idea. Why don't we not prioritize any of these? Why don't we say they're all equally important to us, and that's why they're at the top of our strategic plan. I don't want to have to choose between, safety and livability.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a choice is that? We don't want to overinvest in one. Some areas that are lower on the priority list may be more expensive. So I just don't think this is that useful of an exercise ultimately.
Member Bethel, go ahead.
I completely agree with the Mayor Pro Tem's take on that these are all critical outcome areas for us, and they should all receive our attention. And we're kind of stuck in this area where we're agreeing that they're all important and we all want our pet projects to be higher. But I think that, they're all critical and important to all of us.
Thank you very much. I know we got a few more slides to go on this. Go ahead, Member Ward, and then go ahead, Member Ward.
The thought that struck me as we were talking about priorities is we're viewing these vertically, and why can't we just view them horizontally as all the same?
Yep. All right. You got direction there. Tim, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so the next area, Mayor, Colton was going to come up, and we're going to go through just at a high level some of the goals that you identified during the retreat to just see if you want to keep them or modify them. I would like to just go back and really quickly ask about sustainability. I heard 3 votes for it, and so I just want to know if, as we're doing this exercise, if you'd like us to include it, not include it, or if you want us to table it and bring it back in March.
I'm trying to think of who the 3 were. It was myself, Member Bethel, Mayor Pro Tem. You were the 3rd as well. Oh, Member Pring.
I was, but
Yeah, but no.
I will support it if affordability gets pulled out. I just feel strongly enough around affordability and the importance of that I can't bring myself to support that separately.
Right.
If we're not going to give some significance to affordability.
All right. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Member Russell.
And I really, I think that sustainability goes across all of the areas that we have. And so I would rather not put that as a single item. But everything we do in here, if it's not sustainable, we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Thank you, Member Russell. All right. I don't think we have a majority at this point. Timba, go ahead.
Okay. Great. So yeah, I'll have Colton come up, and the idea here in this exercise was just to quickly run through these goal categories and just ask you for each one if you have any heartburn about keeping it in, if you want to make any modifications, or if you have any other ideas. So I'll bring Colton up to do that part.
Thanks, Tim. All of these goal categories came from the council retreat. They were the strategic objectives that went up on the whiteboards underneath each outcome area. The goal statements are a bit rough around the edges, so I don't want any of you to focus too much on those. Really, what we want to do is just make sure we're hitting all of the main points underneath each outcome area, identifying what we want to keep, if you want to modify anything, or if you think anything's missing. So I'm going to run through the goals for each outcome area, and then we'll revisit them one by one. For economic vitality, we have occupancy rates. We want to increase occupancy rates with vacant properties. We have creating a business-friendly environment. This is specifically related to reducing barriers to opening businesses in Englewood. Business grants, this is business grants throughout the business life cycle. Placemaking and wayfinding. Business engagement, engage a larger demographic of businesses and owners along South Broadway. I think that needs a little bit wordsmithing there. And then business areas, revitalize economically struggling business areas, and business area safety, address safety concerns along South Broadway and in City Center. So I'll go back, we'll start with the top one, and I'll ask for council direction on kind of whether we keep, modify, or delete, starting with occupancy rates.
Actually, just to make this go a little quicker, does anybody have any issues with any of these? I guess is the way that I'm looking at it. Go ahead, Member Russell.
I do have a question. How could the city control occupancy rates?
Thank you for the question. I think this is more about putting businesses into storefronts that are currently unoccupied, especially around City Center, I think was the genesis for this idea or this kind of goal.
Are they properties that we as the city own?
No, I don't think that was the focus. It's more about creating a business environment. Tim, I don't know if you want to jump in.
And I can add to that as well. It's really the entire purpose of our economic development office is business recruitment and retention.
Okay, thank you.
So the only thing that I would want to add, we kind of talk about it, but one of the things that I may have left out here was just a focus on how to retain business. We talk about bringing in new businesses, but we don't talk about how do we promote or just make sure that we keep the businesses that are in Englewood, I guess is the point. So that's something that is missing from that list. Go ahead, Member Russell.
I agree with that. I think we need to work on retaining current businesses.
There we go, retaining. There we go. That's the
Thank
word. But any disagreement with any of the other goal statements or goal categories in this area? All right. Go ahead, Member Pring.
Just one quick thought. I don't have a problem with any of these areas. I do think that safety should apply citywide to businesses and not just specifically to City Center and South Broadway.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah, thanks for that direction. I think during the retreat, there was just a lot of conversation along South Broadway and City Center, and we didn't want to change any of the wording that might have been given to us, but I agree, and I think these can be wordsmithed a bit to address that. Moving on to infrastructure. Again, I'll just run through these quickly. We have water systems, improving the resiliency of water systems, transportation, infrastructure, facilities maintenance and management, information technology security, technology system redundancy. This was something that was advocated by the IT director in terms of like having security and system redundancy. System redundancy is about improving security through having systems in different geographic locations so that like a blackout in one area doesn't kind of affect the whole city. And then natural resources, protect and enhance natural resources, including water resources. So again, we'll ask for your direction on all of these.
All right. Members of council, any changes, anything that you want to add, delete, modify? Don't see anything now. Actually, can I get an ask for the next time this comes in front of us? Are there any goal statements, goal categories that are missing from the previous iteration to now? That was part of the reason why I had the retain Englewood businesses, because I know we had that as the previous goal category. So that's more of an ask, but I don't think that you probably have an answer for infrastructure right now for us. So
yeah, that's definitely something we can put together and put in front of you to make sure if you feel like there's anything that was in the previous plan that you'd like to carry forward, we can kind of incorporate that as a goal in the next iteration.
Well, based on what we have in front of us, I think we're okay with how it is at this point. So I don't see any objections. All right,
Right.
next one, Colton.
Moving on to the big one, livability. So under livability, we have housing affordability, housing access. This was separated from affordability. This is about providing affordable housing to all income levels and ages. Pedestrian safety, community accessibility. This goal was defined as specifically related to expansion of multimodal transportation options. Lifelong learning and recreation, food security, climate adaptation, or adaptation, sorry, I should say. Parks, displacement of residents, equitable placemaking, and access to third spaces. Third spaces being coffee shops, libraries, different places people gather that aren't their homes or, yeah. And I'll ask for the same direction.
Any comments from council? Kind of to my previous point around sustainability, if we're not going to have an outcome area for sustainability, I'm sure that we're missing some goal categories that we may want to add. All right. Go ahead, Member Bethel.
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we want to be proactive in adding sustainability into livability or keep pushing for it to be in its own category?
Well, we still have another discussion about this coming
Okay.
up in a month or so. So actually a couple weeks. I believe it's March 9th. Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Member Pring.
Were you suggesting to add sustainability into this list here for now?
I was not making that suggestion. It's more of a question to council of like where we want sustainability to go, because we need it to be either in livability or on its own. And
Right.
we're not at a decision point for that yet, I guess. Though I guess since we didn't have a majority for sustainability tonight, maybe we go back to the drawing board and plan what it would look like under livability versus what it would look like in its own goal category and its own outcome area.
I would appreciate members of council giving that more thought and putting some definition around what we want to work on around sustainability. I mean, to Member Russell's point, sustainability can be defined in so many different ways,
Right.
and I agree with her definition, and I think I agree with maybe more of what your definition may be. So just kind of as we bring that back in and we're figuring out where to place it, kind of honing that in a little bit more and making it doable, so it's not just kind of like, oh, we're doing sustainability. What are we doing for sustainability? What are our priorities within that for the city over the next 5 years or so?
All right. I don't see any disagreement on livability. All right. Next one.
The next one here is public service delivery. This one we had 4 goal categories. The first one being manage risk, which is decreasing claims and complaints towards the city, effectively steward finances, actively managing reserve levels. Respond to community needs. This is about reducing response time for city questions and services. And then community engagement. This is about building meaningful community engagement that ensures resident voices help shape outcomes and decisions. So in the previous plan, we had community engagement as like a bigger outcome area. This isn't that. I just don't want that confusion. This is more about engaging community members through surveys like we did for this process in terms of, guiding, providing direction, but less so about, say, like neighborhood services, resources program and that stuff.
Any thoughts from council? Go ahead, Member Russell.
This kind of ties into something that I've been concerned about. I think I shared it in different ways. But this council is supposed to have interaction with the public. This puts an added burden and an added expense on staff in reaching out to the public when engaging the 7 of us is really what staff ought to be doing to get the input that they need. That is also, I mean, staff is helping council by doing town hall meetings and things like that. But I really think the reason we were elected is to be making these decisions so that we don't have to engage the public. I engage the public enough to know where people are at, and people call me. I mean, I got some calls about stuff on the agenda this week. So I think that that would free up staff to spend more time on the actual needs of the things that they need to do in the city as well.
Thank you, Member Russell. Go ahead, Member Bethel.
Just as another perspective, I completely agree with you, Member Russell. I think that it is our job to engage with our communities and with our constituency. I'm also concerned personally that I might not be able to reach my entire constituency, that my community and the people that feel comfortable reaching out to me personally would fall short of my entire district. So I like having increased city resources available to reach out to the people that I can't get to. Online surveys, or even just having an open phone number to the city that increases response rates, because we all have this kind of bias in our immediate communities that I think we can strive to overcome and expand.
Member Pring.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to add to that, just in the sense of I appreciate some help from the city, being able to do community engagement. And I think it should be a little less focus on, I feel like we've been pretty survey heavy over the last couple of years. And while I think that that's a valuable tool, I want to see more strength, and mayor seems to have, started pushing some more town halls and things like that. Just kind of for those of us that need the push and are not as active in getting our town halls up and going, like doing more of that level of community engagement. And then also, I really want to make sure that we're just always keeping an eye on assuring that however we're engaging with the community, that it pulls in those voices of our aging residents who may or may not, use technology as much as the rest of us and may not be engaging with those surveys as heavily, or as we saw, for instance, in the focus groups that we did leading up to the retreat, we had 4 people in that focus group, and that's a pretty significant demographic that lives in Englewood, at least according to the last information that we had around that. So just kind of enhancing that piece of it in making sure that we have a variety of ways that we're doing community engagement would be helpful to me.
Thank you, Member Prang. Did that provide enough clarity there, Colton? I think it's not necessarily a new goal category or goal statement, but just how we're going to communicate.
Modify
Yeah.
community engagement, so it's more about on the ground engagement too. Okay.
Yeah. All aspects of different types of channels. Yes.
Okay.
So, Member Ward.
Can we circle back to infrastructure briefly? I debated whether or not I wanted to bring this up, but I looked through the other categories. I recall from the retreat that we had something regarding our web assets on this infrastructure list, and there was some debate between the information technology director and the comms director, because IT, the way our web assets are structured, does not actually manage them in-house without getting overly detailed. So the IT director didn't really want that on the list because it's not his responsibility and he didn't want to get stuck with it. But it seemed important to comms to have something regarding updating our web assets, which is the project that we're working on right now through the SIPA grant, on the list. And I'm wondering why that didn't make the list.
Yeah, thank you, Member Ward. So that was something we were going to bring up next time. There were a few like that are, and we can definitely convert it into more of a goal if you'd like us to, but we were thinking that when I looked into that in more detail, it seems like it's more of a project, like a discrete project, and it is on the draft project list to do the web project this year. So it is, sorry you don't see it tonight, but yes, it hasn't been forgotten, but that's how we were thinking about it. But we could absolutely bring it to a goal level if you think it rises to that level.
I just wanted to make sure it didn't slip through the cracks. It sounds like you've got it pinned down, so thank you.
I don't think I see anything else on public service delivery, so I think we can move on to safety.
Real quick before we move on to safety, one thing we wanted to ask for direction tonight related to public service delivery is in the previous iteration of the plan, we had a governance section, and this was more about internal governance. This included projects such as staff training and development, and projects related to internal policies and procedures. The direction we wanted tonight was to get your opinion on whether this should, or if public service delivery should be modified to include internal organizational governance, or if that should become an internal document that kind of just guides staff and isn't as much public facing.
I would say that the previous one should be, it should be the internal document for staff guidance. That would be my thought. Don't see. Obviously, we'll still have another meeting to kind of discuss it, but we may need to. Are you able to provide a little bit more detail in terms of what that looks like for the March 9th meeting? What we had there?
For the
Within
next
governance, yeah.
It'll be a study session where we will kind of have talk to each department about which projects and metrics they
No,
want.
no, in terms of this question itself, like get a little bit more detail around governance.
Oh, yeah, of course. So basically right now, public service delivery is pretty much just about how we are providing services to residents. Previously, our number 4 priority in the 2025 strategic plan was governance, and that was like our internal guiding kind of document that provided projects related to human resources and staff retention, these sort of things. And basically, we want to know, does this remain in the city strategic plan?
Yeah, I would argue that it shouldn't change, but I know that we're only down to about 3 minutes before the regular meeting starts. So I don't want to rush this conversation, but I think that we probably can speak about it a little bit more in detail on March 9th. Go ahead, Member Pring.
I'm just wondering if we could throw a quick thought out there that maybe it could become an internal document,
Okay.
but that because we now have an enhanced system that tracks some of those functions, like the learning management system where we're tracking trainings and things like that, like we get some sort of status or report out of that system so that there's still like that direct accountability and council checking in with those functions, but it seems like we put tools in place now to address some of what may have been concerns around that. It's just a thought, but I do think that we should talk about it a little bit more.
That's a good point. Thank you, Member Pring.
Okay. And then quickly wrapping up here with safety, well, not quickly, as this is the last one here. The goals include provide services to the unhoused, safe parking. This is a noun, a term related to safe parking options for the unhoused population. Transparently provide education and communication to the community around public enforcement, criminal justice system, and nuisance laws and code enforcement. And then innovate in policing, deploy technology in ways that are constitutionally sound, ethical, and supportive of public safety outcomes and delivery of police services and performance. This was specifically related to maintaining favorable metrics of police service and performance.
Any changes? Any updates? Don't see any. All right. Thank you so much, Colton.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the interest of time, we do have one more question, but I think there's no rush on it. We can wait until next time, which is about the expiration date of the plan. So what I have jotted down is things that what you would like us to talk about next time are renaming the performance metrics, finishing the list of outcome areas, considering possibly a new name for public service delivery, identification of old goals that may not have carried over, more discussion on governance, and the expiration date. That's what I had listed down as topics.
Sounds good.
Great. So we'll bring a more formalized draft back to you in March with those questions to drive your discussion.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
great, Tim.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Anything
thank
else
you.
from council? All right. Thank you very much for that, Tim. And do we need a quick break before we kick off the council meeting? All right, let's take a 5-minute break. It's 7 o'clock. We could be back by 7:05. Thank you very much, Member Prang. Thank you, everyone. but I may be wrong. Okay. All right, there we go. All right. All right, members of council and members of the public, we are now back. We are right at 7:05. I call this meeting to order. If you're able to do so, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, if you could please take roll call.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Present.
Member Bethel,
Present.
Member Prang,
Present?
Member Russell,
Present.
Member Ward,
Present.
Mayor Sierra.
Present.
All 6 present.
Perfect. Moving on to consideration of the minutes from the previous session. Any changes to the minutes from the February 2nd meeting? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Member Ward. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Prang,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 6 ayes.
All right, thank you. We are now moving on to recognition. So tonight, Englewood City Council would like to recognize Trudy Peepgrass, Procurement and Contracts Manager, and Elizabeth Watts, our Procurement Analyst, for being named 2025 Procurement Team of the Year by the Rocky Mountain Governmental Purchasing Association. Trudy and Elizabeth were recognized both by the RMGPA for their ability to demonstrate exceptional performance, professionalism, effectiveness, and overall contribution to the public procurement profession. These awards are meant to highlight teams that have gone above and beyond in their work, collaboration, innovation, and service to their organization and the broader public purchasing community. Trudy and Elizabeth support all city departments and are dedicated to delivering transparent, efficient, and strategic purchasing services which support the city's mission and operations. The team ensures compliance with policies and regulations while fostering fair and open competition. Through collaboration with departments and vendors, the procurement team drives innovation, cost savings, and value for taxpayers, supporting the responsible stewardship of public funds. In conjunction with the Englewood Chamber of Commerce, Trudy and Elizabeth hosted a How to Do Business with the City of Englewood workshop. This outreach session was designed to strengthen relationships with the local business community, increase vendor awareness of procurement processes, and support small, minority, and women-owned businesses in understanding how to successfully partner with the city. Please join me in thanking Trudy and Elizabeth for their many contributions to the City of Englewood and the entire community. So I think we're going to take a quick picture with both Trudy and Elizabeth. If members of council would just come up in front of the dais for the picture. All right, give me 1 second, everyone. We're now moving on to public comments. So we're allotting 90 minutes for public comment. We look to have only 4 speakers here tonight. Only those speakers that haven't spoken in the within the last 90 days. The people that haven't spoken within the last 90 days will be first. Englewood residents must provide their address or the cross streets. Non-Englewood residents must provide the name of the city that you reside in. And if there's any written materials, please submit that to the city clerk in advance or at the meeting. Audiovisual materials must be submitted to the city clerk by 5 p.m. on the Thursday prior to the meeting. So it looks like we do have 4 speakers, and let's see here. Up first is going to be Jamie, is it Indigo? It looks to be a District 1 resident. Hello, Jamie. If you wouldn't mind just clicking on the mic to make it green, there should be like a star. And once it's green, you may
Perfect.
begin.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor Sierra and members of the council. My name is Jamie Indigo, and I am a resident of Englewood District 3, right here off of Broadway in Hamden. I want to thank City Council Member Prange and Mayor Sierra for bringing forth the best practices in policing resolution. It is a necessary acknowledgement that our community values are currently under threat by secret police tactics of federal agents operating in our streets. However, as currently drafted, the resolution is a statement of opinion when we need a shield of law. We have seen what happens when federal agents merely urged to behave. In the last year, under Operation Metro Surge, we have seen masked identified men in marked vans detaining people in broad daylight. We've seen the tragic death of Renee Nicole Good, a woman with deep roots here in our Colorado community, whose family still lacks justice because of the federal agent anonymity this resolution would allow them to keep. Englewood must go further. I fell in love with this city because of the community, because of how we treat our neighbors, how we protect them. I would like Englewood's response to be as strong as the Denver Public Safety Enforcement Accountability Act passed last month. I want our city to be leaders in taking a stand and saying, these are our people, this is our community, and we protect them. I am asking the council to amend this resolution into a binding ordinance with 3 specific actions. Number 1, a binding mask ban. Do not urge federal agents to unmask. Mandate that anyone exercising power in Englewood must be identifiable by name and agency. If they refuse, our local police must be required to document the code violation and report it to the State Attorney General's misconduct portal. Respectfully, council members, if I see my neighbor attacked by masked, unmarked assailants, it is the duty of my moral code and my loving heart to help them. 2, judicial warrant requirement. Explicitly forbid any city employee from granting access to a non-public city property to federal agents who do not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge. We must not allow administrative paperwork to bypass the 4th Amendment. 3, digital sanctuary. Explicitly ban the sharing of our license plate reader and utility data with federal immigration databases. Our city services should not be a one-stop shop for federal surveillance. Our resolution tells the world how we feel. An ordinance tells our community how we will protect each other. We deserve more than a letter to DC. We deserve safety and accountability right here on Broadway and in our residential neighborhoods.
Jamie, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions for members of council? I see none. Jamie, thank you very much for coming tonight. And by the way, I will be giving a response to public comment tonight. So hold tight. I will be providing a response.
Thank you, sir.
Up next is Elise. Actually, no applause from members of the public, please. We just want to make sure everybody has equal footing in terms of their opinions. Want them to all feel comfortable stating their opinions tonight. Up next is going to be Elise. Is it Reuter? It looks to be a District 4 resident. And I'm hoping I got the last name correct. Was that correct? Was it Reuter?
It's Roeder, but
Roeder.
it's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Thank you. When you are ready, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Good evening. My name is Elise Reuter, and I'm a resident of Englewood District 1. I wanted to thank Council for bringing forward this resolution around best practicing in policing, and I urge Council to pass it with additional stronger protections for our community. In the last year, we have seen ICE and Border Patrol agents abducting people and committing acts of violence in our communities with no recourse. Candidly, it has been frightening. While I appreciate that this resolution calls for federal agents to comply with the Constitution, the fact is that many agents have been acting in flagrant disobedience of the law. I would ask Council to strengthen this resolution with a few additions. In Colorado, police must intervene when they see officers using excessive force, and I think this resolution should also call for that. I would also like to see requirements that law enforcement officers must be identifiable by name and agency and must not have their face covered. Finally, I would like to see restrictions that would ban federal agents from accessing city property without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. I've been in Englewood for about a year now, and one of the reasons I love living here is the sense of community. I hope that this resolution with these additions will help keep our community and our loved ones safe.
Ms. Reuter, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions for members of council? I see none. Ms. Reuter, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Up next is Gary Kozak, District 4 resident. Actually, I'll just leave it at that. Mr. Kozak, good evening.
Good evening, Council. You all know about the state law and federal law of safe to tell. I have been informed last week, I talked about the building that was condemned. I've been informed that it's radiation poisoning. You've been told. Now, I also came here on sound ordinance, noise and sound ordinance. We have a requirement that dump trucks can't come out until 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, 7:30 is fine now because over in my neighborhood, we get 60 to 80 vehicles parked there. And so where they used to just wait until 8 o'clock, they go. But we got a worse problem than that. The Sam's Automotive Construction starts at 5:15 in the morning, cranking up their generators. Oh my God. What is it? Everybody called. Was there any results? No. There's no results. Oh, well, that's a start. I got a parking ticket for parking the wrong way right next to my driveway because I've got a medical issue and had to get in the house. Okay, I went ahead and showed my medical and stuff. They passed that. I started to go out the other day, and I got 2 officers there, the parking officer and a police officer, and they're going to grant me another ticket, even though I was parked right, but I was using cones, so if I had to leave for a moment and come back, I could still get a parking lot and not have to park several blocks away. You know, I've been a resident here for a few years. We've been paying taxes for way more than my 75 years. So there's a problem there. Well, selective enforcement, you guys were just talking about service. Selective enforcement. They're over there writing me a ticket when 4 car lengths down, there's a car parked within 10 feet of the fire hydrant. My God, that's an illegal. They're within 5 and 10 feet of people's driveways. Illegal. And I mentioned to him, I said, okay, you're going to write me this ticket and stuff. Where's the law that says I can't put a cone down? If I'm going to have a delivery or something, I got to have a cone down there. Okay? He couldn't show me the law, but I mentioned the other 2, and then he went over to look and measured it and said, yeah, they are in violation. So I got a problem with that in my representative not representing us as citizens in the neighborhood. Okay? Thank you for getting my truck signs back on there. They got to put that, they put them up in 2 hours. I've asked for handicap signs, and I was informed that they couldn't put a handicap sign on both sides of my driveway. Excuse me, just go south 400 feet, and you're going to see 4 signs, 2 on each side of a damn driveway. And I'm going to apply for those because I've got a list of things now medically that I need to be able to not have to keep getting out of my truck and opening the gate to get in the yard. And I want those 2 spots because at 5 o'clock in the morning, we get 20, 30, 40 cars parked in there. And they're not.
Mr. Kozak, your 3 minutes are up. Any questions from members of council? Member Ward is first. He's probably got the question I have. Go ahead.
Mr. Kozak, have you contacted me personally about any of this?
I tried to call and couldn't get through.
Did you leave a message?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It doesn't mean that you don't get them because I have people call me and I don't get messages all the time. So I'm not pointing at that. But I've come in front of this board, in front of all of you. You know I'm in your residence, but you've never responded back to anything I've ever asked for.
Mr. Kozak, I think you answered the question. So I guess my question is, have you reached, you're stating that the generators are going on at 5:15, but so you're insinuating that work is beginning before the 7 o'clock start. Is that what you're stating, Mr. Kozak?
Oh, they've always done that.
Okay.
You get power, air guns and all going on all the time.
Have you contacted community development regarding that or code regarding?
I've contacted several different people. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kozak. Let's see if there's any other questions. Member Praying, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Kozak. So I just want to make sure I understand correctly. You were ticketed for putting a cone out, is that correct?
Well, they were going to give me a ticket for that.
But you
because I had
didn't
a
end up
cone
getting
out.
a ticket?
Well, he already had it written up on his computer, but he hadn't handed it to me, and because I came out to question what was going on.
Okay.
And he says, well, you're not allowed cones. I said, let's just walk to the end of the block here and see how many cones are parked down there. Let's go up on Broadway and see how many cones are parked there.
And then my second question would be the person that was parked too close to the fire hydrant, did they receive a ticket?
No.
Okay, thank you.
He just happened to tell somebody walking by to go tell the guy to come move it. There was 3 vehicles right
All
there
right,
that
Mr.
he
Kozak,
spotted.
I think you answered the question. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Mr. Kozak. I don't see any further questions. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And last name on the list is Jan McCoy, a District 4 resident as well. Good evening, Ms. McCoy. When you are ready, your 3 minutes will begin.
Good evening, Council. Jan McCoy, cross streets are Shenango and South Sherman Street. Well, I sort of thought I wouldn't have to come up here again and talk about common sense, but I feel like I need to. I recently got rid of a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, and although that sounds funny, I sort of feel like it's turning into the wild, wild west here in meetings and some of the decisions being made going forward, especially concerning the South Broadway project, revitalization project. I don't know whether a civics class is needed, an ethics class, or an etiquette class. Maybe all of the above for some of the common sense on this. Specifically, I'm going to tap in, and I know you're already underway and you're just going to do it, come heck or high water, but these bus lanes. I was recently behind a bus that needed to, it was an access, one of the RTD accessible rides, and they needed to unload someone. What I didn't know, you never know the extent. Is it someone with a cane, someone with a walker, or was someone with a wheelchair? And so I began to time it because I knew this was an issue that we were facing. And it took almost 8 minutes to complete the driver getting out of the bus, going to the exterior of the bus, opening the doors, lowering the ramp, securing the ramp, going back in and assisting the wheelchair person, getting them back out onto the, this was pavement in a lot, and then reversing that whole thing. 8 minutes. What are you guys gonna do with the traffic flow? Where's it gonna go? You know where it's gonna go. They're gonna speed back out into traffic and cause a wreck, or they're gonna start going down the side streets. This is not, I don't even know where this got dreamed up, but I'm not gonna spend my entire time on this already. The common sense of that eludes me. The entertainment zones, this popped up after watching the study session last week. Commonly recognized, that's the purpose of bars and restaurants, in my opinion. Have you considered what this will do to the home values within a half a block of Broadway? And I asked that question because I lived a half a block south of the South Gaylord Streets, which is known for bars and restaurants. There were more than 9 liquor licenses when I lived there during the 34 years I lived there. I know what this does to neighborhoods. It's great for everybody to come and visit, but you don't want to live next door to it. Mark my words. And then before my time is up, I'm going to briefly touch on the resolution being presented tonight and ask you how you have decided that this represents citizens. All citizens, which is who you represent. Not some citizens, but all citizens. Is this meant to unify, or will this cause further division? I'm going to ask you those questions and expect.
Ms. McCoy, thank you very much. Your 3 minutes are up. Any questions for members of council? Seeing none, Ms. McCoy, thank you for coming tonight. All right, I believe that does conclude public comments. I'm giving a response tonight, so let's see here. So for our 2 speakers that started the night, Ms. Indigo and Ms. Reuter, thank you very much for coming and speaking tonight regarding your support, but also the need for changes. I think we will be having a dialogue about that conversation later on tonight. And so I think we'll probably just have more comments at that point in time in terms of where we're looking to go. But in terms of the reasoning for having the resolution, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's just we wanted to, first and foremost, support our community overall, which includes not only our constituents, businesses, but also our staff and our police department in that resolution. So we're hoping we're getting to that with the resolution, but we'll be speaking a little bit more about that later on tonight. Mr. Kozak, thank you very much for speaking on the issues. I'm sorry that you haven't gotten a response on the generators, but I think Member Ward may kind of attest to this. Reach out to your council members. But also, I just want to understand, as a council request, City Manager, well, actually, I know that work cannot begin until 7 o'clock, so was there kind of a drop in the ball in that? Is there regular work being done at Sam's Automotive that does not conform to our code? And then also just a little bit more information on the handicap signs that was requested by Mr. Kozak as well. I'm just trying to figure out whether or not that's something that is able to be done. It sounds like it was done later, further down the road, but I just want to understand the reasoning behind that. And Ms. McCoy, thank you very much for bringing, you know, some of the issues that you see regarding the South Broadway revitalization program, as well as the bus lanes. I understand your concern there. I think, Member Russell, you brought up a similar concern in terms of blocking a lane of traffic. I know that that's more something that RTD has been stipulating as part of projects that are part of Complete Streets. I see the concern that you happen to have because people are going to be weaving in and out and maybe causing a safety issue, but I know that this is considered best practice in terms of the way Complete Street projects in general. So that's part of the reason behind that. The decision hasn't been made on entertainment districts overall just yet. I understand your concern there. Obviously, we'll continue to have conversations about that piece, but I do understand your point in terms of living in that general vicinity where that type of consumption is occurring. And lastly, I kind of touched on the point regarding the resolution. We'll be speaking more a little bit about this, but overall, we have a duty to all our stakeholders within the city, which includes not only our citizens, but also just our businesses and staff and police department. I don't feel that this is something that I think we decide whether or not we want to create division individually. And so I don't think we're doing this. I think we're just providing support for all citizens of Englewood. So that's my take on this. That will conclude my comments. Member Russell, go ahead.
I just would like to add to your council request a little bit. Not just are they working, but I'm pretty sure starting the generators at 5:15, even if they're not working, is violating the noise ordinance. So, and then also, could we get more information? The condemned building, we probably just signed over. And if there's a problem with radiation poisoning, I think we need to know that information. Thank you.
I missed that piece. Thank you very much for that, Member Russell.
Mayor, can I ask for clarification?
Yes, please.
Because I wasn't clear from 2 meetings ago
Right.
whether this was the Colorado Retina building or are we talking about the 24-hour fitness building?
That would be the Retina building. It's
Yes.
right
Okay.
across.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There it is. Yep. Thank you for that, Member Russell and City Manager. All right, everyone, that concludes public comment. We are now moving on to consent agenda items. I didn't see any items pulled tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, members of council, but since I'm not hearing anything, can I get a motion to approve 9A 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 9B 1, 2, and 3, and 9C 1?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Prang. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 6 ayes.
All right, perfect. Thank you. No public hearing items for tonight. Moving on to ordinances. 11A1 is CB8, mutual aid agreement between the City of Englewood and Arapahoe County Board of Health to aid in disaster emergency planning and point of local dispersal. We have Director of, here we go. So we have Senior Services Manager Nancy Baum and Emergency Preparedness and Response Specialist for Arapahoe County, Lauren Johnson. Good evening, Nancy.
Good evening,
Good to
Council
see
and
ya.
Mayor. Thank you for having us. My name is Nancy Baum. I'm the Senior Services Manager. And with me tonight is the Arapahoe County Response Specialist. Sorry, let me repeat that. Emergency Preparedness and Response Specialist, Lauren Johnson. You can come up. And we are here tonight to talk to you, to recommend council makes a motion to approve the ordinance for the mutual aid agreement between the City of Englewood and Arapahoe County Board of Health to aid in disaster emergency planning, specifically allowing Malley Recreation Center to serve as a local point of dispersal for vaccines or other medical countermeasures. And this would be in the event of a public emergency. This would allow us to provide Malley provision of our facility at no cost. Myself, as a senior services manager, would be present to help from a facility standpoint. And then we would allow them to use the main lobby and the buzz room, which is our resource room, and our refrigeration, which has a locking mechanism. Part of this agreement would allow for advanced public health inspections, which we already receive as part of the Volunteers of America Lunch program. And then also we would provide floor maps and site plans for emergency response.
I can give a little bit of background. So I work with the Emergency Preparedness and Response team at Arapahoe County Public Health, and we are always thinking about responding to things like pandemics, bioterrorism events, infectious disease outbreaks, and within the county, we are looking to kind of pre-identify points of dispensing, and so we have these agreements with our school districts, including Englewood. Also, we originally had it just with our school districts, but we know that disasters don't wait on kids just to be out of school. And so we are looking to have these agreements with rec centers, which we already have rec center agreements with Aurora and Littleton as well. And also faith-based institutions where people can come and get their medication during a large-scale emergency. And this agreement is only for those state declared emergencies, not for small outbreaks. And so it's just for those larger public health emergencies.
Anything to add, Nancy or Lauren?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the overview. Any questions for members of council? All right, pretty straightforward. With that, I will ask for a motion of approval for CB8.
So moved.
Thank you very much, Member Ward. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Any further comments from members of council? All right. Seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 6 ayes.
Ms. Baum, Ms. Johnson, thank you very much for your time tonight. Pretty straightforward. Really appreciate your coming and speaking to the item tonight. Moving on to CB10, this is Municipal Code Cleanup Project for Title II, which is our boards and commissions. We have our City Attorney, Tamara Niles.
Thank you, Mayor Sierra. This is a repeat of an item you've seen before and recently. We have brought this matter to City Council for consideration back in 2025, and then brought it back recently and updated it to include several proposals, including the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee requested name change to the Code Compliance Advisory Committee. Here's a graphic of the proposed reorganization. What this ordinance attempts to do is take every formal board, commission, and committee created by city council or charter and put it into one title and chapter in municipal code. And they're all now formatted in alphabetical order. And it's largely repetitive of what was previously in code, as well as what was in charter, what were in other sections of code. Now it's in one simple place. You can see on the ordinance, proposed ordinance in your packet, the things that are substantive changes I have underlined. This proposes to completely get rid of what we have, replace it with new, but I wanted to draw council's attention to the things that I've added that aren't currently there. so you aren't currently in code. So you can see that a code enforcement advisory committee to that end is now underlined to say code compliance advisory committee. Each board and commission now also have the same 3 sections. And the purpose for quite a few of them was not previously formalized anywhere. So when I drafted a purpose section from scratch based on what they do, what their provisions of code that delineate what they do, I've underlined that as well to draw to your attention. We also have in one chapter, every board, previously they each had their own chapter and sometimes it was just one section. And then we took the provisions that were duplicated throughout municipal code and put them all in a separate chapter 2. So that, for example, then if you want to know what Code Compliance Advisory Committee does, you go to chapter 1, look it up. If you want to know the rules applicable to all boards and commissions, then you go to chapter 2 and they're all there together instead of scattered throughout charter and municipal code. So the goal is to make it more readable, easy for people to understand and to find what is applicable to those boards. We also removed the marijuana and liquor and marijuana licensing authority because that's no longer an appointed board. So the city clerk's office and a hearing officer serve in that capacity. So we took that out of the boards and commissions section because it no longer fits. We also added a duty to the Budget Advisory Committee to monitor ballot authorized tax funded improvements upon the request of council. That was something that has been discussed, that the Budget Advisory Committee is in a position to then review the budget line items for departments that receive those tax funded improvements. And so we made it clear that if City Council so asks, the BAC will serve in that role as well. I've worked on this for quite a while, so I think I may have covered the entire content of this PowerPoint before moving on to any slide. We did try to add some consistency to the provisions because there was conflicting provisions in various sections. So we wrote that these apply to all boards unless there's something specific for that board. So that the chair and vice chair terms are 2 years, except where it says otherwise. We also codified some language that we have included in City Council's resolution of appointments to boards and commissions, which states that boards can elevate an alternate to fill an unexpired term if City Council has appointed an alternate, and confirming that members continue to serve until a successor is appointed. And we included that because let's say someone's appointed for 2 years, but maybe due to council calendar, you can't make those appointments for 2 years and 2 months later to fill that spot. It makes it clear that whoever's in that position will continue to hold that position until council appoints their replacement. Here are the duplicate provisions that we've included all in chapter 2. We also had included in there that no person shall serve on more than one quasi-judicial board. That has been City Council's practice for some time. So we went ahead and included it here. If you've read through I think it may be 10 or 12 pages of municipal code in front of you, we also had someone inquire whether City Council should consider adding in that City Council won't appoint the same person to more than one quasi-judicial board unless there are insufficient applicants. I made a note on the ordinance in front of you. I didn't handle it probably not with the best practice. It's kind of jotted in there. So I wanted to draw that to your attention so that if you do want to include that provision, let me know and we'll add it in. If you don't, let me know that too, and then we'll take it out for second reading. It's not currently written in formal language. That's why I wanted to draw it to your attention. We also made some changes to titles of supportive staff. There was some question as to who the staff liaison is, versus who serves as the staff expert on the board. So, and there was also some language regarding recording secretaries. So staff studied it and recommended that any recording secretary shall be henceforth called the board administrator to serve as the administrative services provider to the board, and that the staff liaison shall be the supporting staff. We were also asked to include an optional amendment. As you can see on the proposed ordinance, there is in brackets and in bold some language for an optional amendment. We have had some significant interest in transportation and ETAC, Englewood Transportation Advisory Committee. And I know City Council had some excellent candidates for that position, for that board, but we didn't have enough positions to appoint. So there is an optional amendment as to whether council wants to add the flexibility that they have to appoint a minimum of 9 members, which is what the board currently is, up to 9. So if you want that optional amendment, you could appoint up to 9 members to ETAC. I would welcome your questions. And then if there is a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance, I would request that it refer to this ETAC optional amendment language, as well as whether you want to include any language that would prohibit appointing the same person to more than one non-quasi-judicial board.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Member Russell, go ahead.
I have a bunch of questions, but just this one to begin with. On the changing the minimum numbers of 5 members to 9 members, didn't we put the numbers of board members on a ballot initiative a few years ago that we changed a lot of them to 5 members? Did we do that on a ballot initiative?
I believe we did, to be able to give City Council the flexibility to reduce the number of board members. Because at that time we had the opposite problem. We didn't have enough people applying for board positions. And so there was a ballot initiative regarding the charter required boards, specifically the library board, that we could reduce the number of library board members. And I'm saying that with more confidence than I feel. Let me check my records as to what exactly we sent to the voters.
Okay, and I was actually just going to ask for clarification to make sure about the language. Because the truth is, if we worded it a specific way, it may have to go to a vote of the people.
I can tell you with certainty, ETAC was not a ballot question that we sent to the voters because it's not a charter created board.
Okay.
So this particular revision would not be implicated by that. But if it works for you, when I'm done with this item, I will research it and let you know exactly what that ballot question was.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I have one question, and Member Russell, you may have the answer to this too. But the chair and vice chair that you have, the list of 10 items that was consolidated, the chair and vice chair have 2-year limits, 4 years total for that role. Does this include the water and sewer board? Because I know that we had discussions about this.
Yes,
Within water and sewer. I don't know if there was an agreement on that.
Let me pull up the ordinance.
That we wanted to have that limit.
I believe we carved out a specific exception to water sewer board because it's such a technical board that requires specific technical knowledge and historic knowledge. I believe we carved out that exception.
I didn't see the language within that specific language, but Member Russell, did you have the same type of thought?
Yeah, that's another question. Yes, and I mean, I don't think the Water and Sewer Board was on board with
exactly.
doing
Yeah,
that.
we had a couple of meetings. Yeah,
right. And then also, the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee are appointed for 2-year terms, and so having a chair assigned for 2 years doesn't make sense. That's why they appoint 1 year. I don't know if that reflects.
This would provide a term limit for them, that if they're appointed to a chair or vice chair, they couldn't serve for more than 2 terms. So that's what it's intended to be, so that the same person doesn't just settle in and kind of run the board, that you make sure you get alternate voices.
Right, I understand that for boards that have 4-year terms, that makes sense, but for boards that have 2-year terms, I think
I didn't realize code enforcement was only 2-year terms.
Yeah,
so
they're only
that's good to
2-year
know.
terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions for members of council? Not Member Russell, I know you have more questions, so don't see any on this side. So Member Russell, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I got a couple of my questions. I do want to talk about the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee and changing the name of it. But I want to wait a minute to do that. Let's see, I want to make sure I got all these notes here. Oh, one of the things at one point, I think council asked for direction, asked the Budget Advisory Committee to start looking into some things with the general fund also. And they felt that after their last meeting, that there was a consensus to move that direction. Does anybody else remember that?
Within city council or within the BAC?
The city council gave them direction at that time. They felt like at some point, city council would like them to look into general fund issues.
So, City Attorney Niles, would that be part of this conversation, or I know that we were planning on having another discussion regarding boards and commission handbook updates, I believe. Would that be the time for that, or?
It certainly
ahead.
could be in the handbook if it's not in municipal code. The Budget Advisory Committee, ultimately, if City Council can make requests of any appointed board or commission. So City Council requests BAC review and advise regarding a specific item, same as CEAC or whatever its name may be after tonight, then that's City Council's prerogative. There has been a request to look at a review and update to the board and commission handbook, especially as it relates to council liaisons, and just to update it with some changes. We see evolution of boards and commissions. It could also be in there if City Council wants to formalize it.
Okay, thank you. And I got more, but I'm going to let
If I could circle back to the water sewer board question, I remember it did come up and we did address it. The way we handled it is we carved out an exception for the charter created quasi judicial boards for those chairs. And that's specifically in that section. And we also carved out an exception if a board creates bylaws changing this 2-year term, then they can certainly do that. So what we had attempted to do was to provide a baseline consistency. But if those charter quasi-judicial boards, water sewer board, for example, if that doesn't work for them, then they can just make an exception. Every other board, if they want to change it for themselves, they can do that in their bylaws. It's specifically written in the ordinance.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Member Prank.
Thank you. So I was just going to maybe respond to Member Russell's question about budget advisory. Are you referencing the reserve policy that they're working on? Was that related to general fund?
No, that was specifically City Council asked them to look into the reserve policy. But there was just a discussion one time. And I mean, that hasn't been moved forward or anything, but they had apparently gotten some questions at the last time they presented to council.
So actually, can I ask a question? Because I thought that they already had that purview to look at the general fund. Was there something specific that we're limiting them in?
According to this, they don't have the authority to look at the general fund. They only, that's correct, City Attorney Niles, right?
It's not specifically delineated in one of their duties. However, City Council
could ask them, but it would have to be at this point direction of the City Council. I think because we would have to give them specific request. So I mean, that might be something we want to look at for future. And at different times we could add and take away things from this that we're talking about tonight. Correct?
I'm sorry, somebody sneezed and I didn't hear it.
So what I'm asking is if we wanted to change any of the information in here or amend it a year from now, 2 years from now, or whatever, we could do that, correct?
Absolutely. A council member praying also had a recent council request on how to submit requests to boards and commissions, like what is that communication process between council and a board, and it's kind of related to your question about how to ask BAC to look at certain things. The clerk's office did an excellent job responding to that and actually developed a proposed procedure that I believe will be in the board and commission handbook update.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
Member Russell, floor is yours.
Let's see, the other thing in here that I wanted, do we need to add the DDA into this? Because DDA was formed differently than any of the boards. It's a state, it took a vote of the people or the businesses in the area. So do we need to include them in here? Because once their job is done, of course, that'll probably go on for a while. So I'm just asking, do they need to be in this?
Nothing has to be in this. That's solely within your discretion. The direction that we had received was make this comprehensive. And so we included every board that city council appoints. So to that end, we also included Englewood Housing Authority, even though much like DDA, it's created separately. But we wanted to reference it because if someone, for example, is, oh, I'll apply for EHA, I wonder what it is. They can look it up on our municipal code. They can search for it and it will come up and give them some direction about what EHA is and what they do.
However, there was some problems with the EDDA because there is an individual that lived in the district whose residence was in the district, and they did not allow her to apply because they said you had to be a business. Really, I think what they said is you don't live in the district, but that's not true. She does. So why would people need to be able to look it up if they're not going to allow them to serve on here? It's mostly business owners.
If you want to remove it, that's completely within your discretion.
Well, I don't know that I want to remove it. I'd rather have it in here, but then I think we also ought to be considering citizens that live in the area for this board. So I'm just bringing that up. The one other thing before I go to the code enforcement that I would like to, where it says the board has the authority to promote the alternate automatically, I would rather have it come before council, because if there's some reason, now, if there's a vacancy on the board and the alternate is there, the alternate has voting rights. And so even if it was a period of a couple months before that happened, I just would like to see council appoint that for, I just think it gives council control, and who knows what could happen in the meantime.
So I'll tell you the background on this, why we wrote it this way, is that generally before council will appoint, we go through an entire application process, and then council spends at least one day, if not two, interviewing all applicants. So what we found is if boards didn't have the authority to do that, then we could go 6 months with a vacancy. And so that's, if they can't elevate the alternate, there's nobody that has a temporary absence that the alternate can step in and vote for them for that particular meeting. So that was the issue we ran into. And that's why we started putting it in your appointment resolutions. And that's why we propose it today. Council does appoint those alternates, interviews people and appoints them to serve as an alternate. So that's why we thought it would likely be okay with you. But again, it's completely your discretion if you want to take it out.
So what if we didn't leave it vacant that long, the board sends an email to council we want to promote, and generally they meet once a month. Planning and zoning meets more often than that, but and then it just would show up on the next agenda. Is that a possibility where council could?
Absolutely. I was just looking to see, we tried to make it comprehensive, and a confession, I finished this quite a long time ago. And so that's why normally I can just answer these questions off the top of my head, but we drafted quite a bit of legislation through the fall, and I worked over Christmas break. So now I'm 2 months later going back through to specifically look how we wrote it. The way we wrote it was that they have to first notify the city clerk that they intend to elevate um, an alternate position. And then I believe the city clerk could then notify city council of that, much like they do for resignations. I believe you get an email regarding that. But we can certainly change it however you deem appropriate. We could add perhaps that the city clerk shall notify city council, and if no objection at the next council meeting, they shall be elevated, something like that. That would respond to your concerns.
And actually, I just kind of would like the rest of council to weigh in. I just was bringing something up, so.
Okay. Thank you, Member Russell. Member Bethel.
It would seem that in the interest of government efficiency, that if we appoint an alternate member to a board, we should allow them to serve in that role as an alternate. So if there becomes vacancy, they should be able to step in and fill that vacancy.
Thank you, Member Bethel. I'm the similar thought. You know, when we appoint people to boards and commissions, especially when they're appointed as an alternate, the assumption is that at some point they're going to get elevated to a full-time member. So I would be okay with that. I think the only thing that we would need to do, I think planning and zoning may be the only one that doesn't have a liaison, a council liaison, is just during our discussions of updates from boards and commissions that we would just state so a member just resigned and this person was elevated to full-time membership. So I think that would be the way to communicate it to city council, but I don't think that there should be a need for us to vote or state it during a council meeting. Anybody in disagreement or other opinion? Go ahead, Member Pring.
No, I agree with that sentiment. I think if we have interviewed all applicants and it's someone that's appointed, they should be able to serve. Maybe to address Member Russell's concerns, you know, we get the notification that someone has been elevated to a regular position on the board or commission, and then it becomes that council liaison's duty to bring forward if there is an issue. So there's a known issue that exists in the functioning of that board or commission, that we would bring that forward and ask to have a conversation about it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Anything else, Member Russell?
Okay, and then I think there was one other that I'm not sure that we discussed. What was the one thing that you listed? I don't think we talked about the change that.
You were gonna the name code enforcement to code.
Well, no, I do want to talk about that. But there was one other thing that you brought up.
The 2 members serving on one board, or excuse me, serving on more than one board.
Okay. All right.
Do you want? Sorry, go ahead, Member Russell.
No, go ahead. I need somebody to weigh in again.
Okay. Can you stipulate again what the potential language would be for that? So go ahead, Member City Attorney.
There was a suggestion that council may want to consider amending this ordinance to prohibit appointing the same person to more than one board. We currently have that practice for quasi-judicial boards, but not for the other 20-ish boards. So there was a proposal to codify that council won't appoint the same person to more than one board unless there is a lack of candidates to fill all positions. I believe that's currently council's practice, and council has discretion as to whether or not to do that currently. If we codify it, that would take away some of that discretion. But it was an issue raised to me, so I wanted to raise it to you.
Okay, and it still means that no person serving on a quasi-judicial board could be appointed to another board even if we needed it. Is that correct?
Right, that's already in the proposed ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And current council practice.
Okay. I am okay with that. And so now to the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee, and I don't know if we need to, some of your council request weighed into my thinking on this. The one thing that I asked last week at the study session was that the Code Enforcement Advisory Board currently um, I know they are totally under community development, but some of their calls are generated uh, from dispatch. Um, and they do have some that are under different authority than community development. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a section of code that isn't impacted by this ordinance that specifically describes the titles that they have authority to enforce. And that didn't change either in this proposed ordinance or in moving them to community development. That stayed the same.
Okay, so here is part of the issue that I'm having, and some of it does tie into the letter that was generated, and we don't necessarily have to talk about that right now. But that board had been working on code compliance for 3 or 4 months. I'm thinking I missed a couple of those meetings. And then Mr. Ben David and 3 other citizens come to speak, and they had already been working on code compliance altogether. And in the conversation, they had really already written a letter to council urging us to approve this. I don't remember if the name change was in there, but just this ordinance about code compliance. But then in the course of their discussion, they came up with that letter. And the reason that letter came up is because the things that the police report was in their agenda meeting, and there in the police report there were 3 things the police report addressed, and it was noise and threats and harassment and hardcore drug distribution. Those 3 things are criminal. They are not code compliance. And noise is one of the things that they were in charge of before. And I think that when this board was formed, everything was under the police department. And I think I was reading the paperwork. It was formed in 1997 or something like that. So I'm struggling with having a board sit under community development where they're going to be addressing only nuisance issues. Now, I mean, I don't have a problem with that board, with that department, code enforcement, being moved to community development. What I struggle with is moving the committee to only address nuisance compliance, when a lot of these things, to be real honest, they've been told that this nuisance ordinance will fix Mr. Ben David's problem. It will not. The problems that are going on in that home are criminal issues. And so I'm struggling with putting that in here because it is changing drastically what the direction is.
Thank you very much, Member Russell. City Attorney Niles, can you, I know you covered quite a bit there, Member Russell, but my understanding is that their scope really isn't changing with the name or with what we're presenting tonight. And I think the way that I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, City Attorney Niles, but they, based on the 3 items that you're talking about, Member Russell, the drug use, the threats, but then noise, really noise is the only one that they should have touched as part of their scope of their duties. Nuisance, the reason why this nuisance abatement issue is in front of code enforcement is because City Council asked them to look into just the language of code enforcement, just provide, or the nuisance language, just to provide us additional set of eyes. But I guess what I'm asking here is, by moving them under code or under community development, we're not changing their scope, nor are we asking them to take on any criminal or advisory roles in terms of our criminal code. And I know that I kind of didn't state all that correctly, but I just need to get a little bit clarity here.
Yes, so the scope of our code enforcement officers or code compliance officers, as they're known now, is in Municipal Code Section 6-5-1, which is under Title 6, which is Health and Sanitation. And it states they have the authority to enforce Title 5, which is Business and License Regulations, Title 6, Health and Sanitation, Title 8, which is Building and Safety Codes, Title 9, Housing Regulations, 11, Public Ways, like our right-of-way, public property, 12, Public Utilities, 15, Health, Sanitation, and Environmental Protection, 16, which is our Land Use Code, and Title 7, that's the Public Safety Code that includes our criminal code, but it's Title 7 only Chapter 1, which is Animals and Fowl, and Chapter 2, which is Lost or Abandoned Property. The rest of Title 7 is strictly the purview of Englewood Police Department, which that includes sex offenders, public offenses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Member Russell, did you want to weigh in on that? Because I saw that you were reaching for your light, but on anything that I stated or not?
Not that I can think of. And it's not, I don't want them to be characterized as doing the wrong thing,
Right.
because I actually believe that for the first time, they saw, the committee saw what the problem was, that it had to do with criminal enforcement. Now, whether they are supposed to direct in that, but when people came and spoke about what the problem was, and then the police report was put in the agenda.
Right.
So
yeah, we probably led them in that direction based on the agenda of the of that evening, I guess, in a sense. So I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. I think everything was answered based on what I was asking for, and I provided a little bit of clarity on why the nuisance abatement item was in front of the code. What are we calling them? Code?
It depends on
What's
what
their
you
new name
decide
now?
tonight.
What's their new name now?
Right now, it's Code Enforcement Advisory Committee, but if we vote to pass that, it will be Code Compliance.
Code Compliance. All right,
Enforcement
saying that,
Committee.
just got to get there. All right, I think you answered my questions, City Attorney Niles. Any other questions? I go ahead, Member Prang. I do have one item that we haven't covered yet, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, has council received this letter that continues to be referenced? Because I
Yes.
keep hearing that council received the letter, but I didn't receive the letter. And so who's supposed to bring that forward to us?
Well, it's in my inbox, but
Okay.
but I think I need to make it available. I don't think it was asked of me to share it to all of council, but I can definitely make it available to City Manager, and you can make it available.
Yeah, we
to
can
all.
share. We'll share that tomorrow
Okay.
to the
Do
shared
you have
portal.
it already?
Yes,
Sean?
I do.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then, so I feel like my understanding is, and I'm just starting to get my head around code enforcement / compliance, but it sounds to me like the core duties of the board remain the same. They're still doing, I think the crux of maybe what you're getting at, Member Russell, is the concern about removing any ability to get to that enforcement piece. And I feel like when we had our presentation during the study session, that there were some assurances from people that work in code enforcement or code compliance / enforcement, that those processes wouldn't change. So I feel like I'm pretty okay with the name change of it. We're still, like, any of the duties of that board is specific to, are we complying with our codes or not? And then if something kind of elevates to the level that requires enforcement outside of the dog stuff and those specific things mentioned, then that automatically goes to the police department anyways. So I feel like we still have protections of getting that enforcement piece. even though the name would be changing, or am I incorrect?
So nothing is changing except for the name. As far as this ordinance is proposes to effectuate. So the way you can think about it is the police department takes enforcement action against people, and code enforcement or code compliance takes enforcement action against property. So sometimes there can be overlap because who owns property? A person generally, but it can be a corporation. I can tell you that at the city attorney's office, often when issues arise to you, then they are referred to me, at which point I reach out to code compliance and ask what the enforcement status is. And we sit on the nuisance abatement team. We talk about enforcement actions all the time. The city prosecutor works for me. He's the one that files complaints in municipal court against the property owners for things like nuisance. So even though the name is changing, the compliance or the enforcement aspect of it is not at all. All that framework is still there and is still unchanged. And I know we occasionally do ask that division to take a look at this, consider filing a nuisance action, or actually we just had an issue come up today with a business in this area, and we looked at, do we need to, police have been called, but we looked at, do we also need to consider a nuisance action? Do we need to contact code compliance so that they can also investigate the property versus a criminal action?
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Go ahead, Member Russell.
And so just one more question, and maybe this isn't the place for this question, and I'm okay if this needs to come up when we talk about the nuisance ordinance. But and maybe what's a little bit confusing to me is we have a property here. I am not really sure that a nuisance abatement would apply to this property. Do we know that? Or let's not say this property, a property like this property.
I don't know. Are you talking about the property on Lincoln?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what is your...
Actually, City Attorney Niles, I think that conversation would probably be better for the nuisance, when the nuisance item comes up.
Yes, and okay.
That is scheduled
just because
for
we don't
this
have
month.
the nuisance document in front of us, it's hard for me to, like the rest of council, to weigh in. Just because we weren't part of that, we're not part of that board, so we don't have enough information to ask other questions regarding
Right,
that, so.
and I think that's maybe where it belongs, and so I probably have got enough answers to my questions right now. So when code enforcement officers give a dog ticket or whatever they call it, or something else that is criminal, they can actually go to court to testify in court, right?
Yes, and they do all the time.
Okay. And the committee will still have direction over those areas that code enforcement deals with.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That helps me. That answers my questions.
All right, Member Bethel?
I, for one, support the changing of this name to compliance from enforcement. To my understanding, code enforcement or compliance officers are not armed, which I think is an important distinction here. For many residents, an interaction with code compliance is the first step as they, if there's an issue with property, it's the first interaction with the city government that they have. And I think it's important for us to take that step as gently as possible so that maybe a renter or homeowner that is dealing with weeds along their alley, as I have been cited for before, doesn't have an armed response. And it doesn't escalate a situation beyond what's necessary. If it's an issue for a fine, let it be a fine. If it's a criminal offense, let it be handled by the police. So I think that the term compliance makes an important distinction outside of enforcement, that it is more of a discussion than it is an issue or an issue that requires violence in response to.
Thank you, Member Bethel. There's two things I want to bring up, and then hopefully we can get a motion on the table. One, in terms of the ETAC board, I think nine's a bit much for me. I would be happy with 7. I'd be happy to add an alternate there as well because we have seen quite a bit of interest in that board. So raising it from 5 to 7, I think would be my preferred, and then I'll leave it to council whether or not we want to add an alternate. And then regarding I know that we kind of just touched on it a little bit, but regarding a member being able to serve on multiple non-quasi judicial boards, I kind of like our current process where we kind of just discuss it during that evening of what the board and commission interview evening. We basically, if we see we have a lot of applicants, then we basically just make a decision there that we won't appoint somebody. But I don't want to be in a situation where we're deterring people from looking to apply to multiple boards when we basically stated that we can't. So we may have a shortage potentially in future boards. So that's my reasoning behind it. I would like to keep it as is for now. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Go ahead, Member Pring.
Thank you. I'd like to weigh in on that last piece. I was the one that had conversation with city attorney about the appointment to several. I feel like maybe we weren't as clean and judicious as we could have been that night when we were having the conversation. And I'm not sure it was communicated similarly to every single person who had applied for multiple boards or may not have gotten appointed. So I asked for a formalized statement around that. It doesn't prevent us from doing the practice that we've been doing. But I just think for fairness and just keeping us on the right track and having clarity in our process of what we do, I requested that.
So, Member Pring, I think maybe I'm a little bit, the way that I was seeing it is that if there's someone that's already on a board, but they decide to interview that evening, they are requesting to be on a second board, and obviously that evening we basically stated, no, we have too many applicants, we will only be able to serve one board. But what you're saying is that some members of the public are requesting multiple boards for that evening. Is that what you're stating, or are you
Probably both?
Okay.
Probably both. I just think that it puts us in a position where if we're tired and we've done 20 interviews that evening, we may not be communicating the same thing to every person equally.
Okay.
And I think, again, this statement in here still allows us, if we don't have enough, to reconsider that option, but it just makes it clear for all applicants, out the gate. If you already sit on a board or commission, or if, we just end up with too many, you might not get,
Right.
but you can't sit on several.
Yeah.
I just think that it provides clarity
I
in our
get it.
processes.
I think the way that I was kind of thinking, I think the former gets impacted a bit more. The one that already sits on a board may get impacted by that language more than someone that's applying to multiple boards on that evening. So, all right. No, thanks for that clarification, Member Pring. All right. Any further questions? If not, can I get a motion? Well, I want to see if people are weighing in first on the ETAC. That seems to be the one. Are we good with 7 members? Do we want an alternate on there? Go ahead, Member Pring.
I'm good with the 7 members and your suggestion of an alternate on there.
Okay.
Largely good with all of the changes here. I did have a couple of
Sure.
comments, and it may come into play when our other conversation about boards and commissions. But I had a question about which boards and commissions actually have bylaws and where those can be found, if they can be found. I don't think that I've ever seen that, and I've asked that question several times. I'm not sure I've gotten a clear answer. Could we get a list of that and maybe get a copy of those bylaws? And would it be an appropriate time before that next conversation to ask the city attorney's office to just do a quick review of those to assure that everything still ticks and ties and we're in compliance with changing state laws and, just, I'm not sure how often those get visited, and for us to have like a higher level oversight of the existing bylaws.
City Clerk's office just messaged me. They are on the Boards and Commissions website, not that one. I think so. It must be somebody in the back of the room. That they are available on the Boards and Commissions website. This has been an identified project to work toward every board and commission that needs them, developing bylaws, and then inserting uniform provisions in them. So I believe it's been a long-term project identified by the clerk's office, but I'm not 100% sure. And they have a lot of projects relating to boards and commissions. When they stepped in, we didn't have a lot of formalized processes, and they immediately identified best practices and then worked toward an implementation plan. So I know that's already been identified, and I wouldn't say it's a quick project, but I can get you a timeline of when that will be complete.
Okay, thank you.
That said, though, I am happy to gather those bylaws, and when we see them, we save them in a folder. We have a folder for each board and commission, so I'm happy to gather that and submit it to council as well.
All right, so I think we've heard a lot of feedback here tonight. It looks like we're in favor of 7 and 1 for the Transportation Advisory Committee, what I've heard. So I'll just ask for a motion for whatever item we're on now. What is that? 11C1.
Move to approve 11C1.
And I think you want us to stay with
Inclusive of the name change for...
No, it's 11A2.
Excuse me. Move to approve 11A2.
It is 11A2.
With the inclusion of the name change for code compliance. The statement regarding not participating on several boards and commissions. And what was the third thing we needed?
ETAC, 7 and 1.
And the suggestion of adding up to 7 members and 1 alternate on ETAC.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Member Bethel, any further comments?
Can I make one clarification? As far as the alternates on ETAC, you already have the authority to appoint alternates to any board or commission.
Okay.
So unless you want me to specifically only provide that you can appoint 1 alternate to ETAC specifically, that's already in code in section 2-2-2 in the proposed ordinance in front of you.
Yeah, we can leave it as without it. Okay, just a 7. Is that a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yes,
Bring
thank
in,
you.
okay, all right, perfect. All right, any further comments? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to 11C1. Member or City Attorney Niles, I'll just keep you there. This is for the resolution urging implementation of best practices and a reflection of community values for all law enforcement agencies that may act within this jurisdiction. Just a little bit of background on this. I think we brought this up maybe about a month ago as part of an item to consider by City Council. Over the last few weeks, Member Prang and I have been working on the language, mostly by looking at what other cities have been doing across the nation to obviously address some of the issues that we've been seeing across Minneapolis, Portland, Los Angeles earlier in the year, that type of thing. So fully aware of it. So we use that kind of a baseline to kind of come up with some of the language. I think now we're at a point where we wanted to get more feedback from other members of council about what we have put forth in terms of language. Trying to think if I missed anything there. Member Prang, anything you want to add?
Sure. I guess just to address some of the comments that have been made already tonight. I am supportive of some stronger language. My approach was really to bring forward, the idea and have it grow and do that in a way that was not divisive for our community. So to address Ms. McCoy's comments earlier, my intent is I'm not interested in making anti-statements. I'm interested in us having a discussion and making statements about what we can do to protect our residents within the city. And in my opinion, that does apply to all, including our police officers that work for us. And so I have a lot of personal opinions and things that I may or may not choose to share outside of this resolution regarding some of the actions of federal immigration agents. But my whole intent in suggesting that we work on this was to just be proactive and to make a statement and to show residents that we hear concerns, we have concerns, we want to do what's best for our residents as a whole, make it as strong as we can, but also not give a flavor of, any us against them. We support our local law enforcement, and largely they do an amazing job. And we're simply asking that other agents that come into our city live up to our standards. So I'm hoping that we do have a little more robust conversation around, some strengthening of some words. I do think there's one piece of legislation that we could discuss that's missing, but I just want to clarify that, I guess my original thoughts and intent on this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Member Prang. I think the one last thing, it's been ever changing in terms of what the state, what we're doing at the state level as well. So when we were drafting some of the language, I know that there was just conversations at the state level, and I reached out to our state rep, Meg Froelich, that is spearheading some of the language towards this, and just making sure that some of this is being captured at the state level, if in fact we leave it out within the resolution or ordinance or whatever we happen to decide tonight. But I have been in communication with a lot of our state reps and people that oversee the city of Englewood from the federal level as well, discussing this. So any further comments for members of council? Go ahead, Member Ward.
Yeah, I got a preview of this resolution before the packet was published. Unfortunately, I've been experiencing some personal difficulties and work difficulties recently, which prevented me from talking with any of my peers about what changes I would like to see to this. My basic desire is to give this teeth. I want it to have meaning, something other than just a protest, to have, action and consequence follow. And I don't know if that involves us putting this in ordinance form or if we can do that currently with a resolution. Secondarily, I would like to have some stronger language in this. And then the third thing is, as I was reading through the resolution tonight, the clause in whereas 1, section 1 of the therefore clause, I should say, should federal law enforcement, military, or immigration officials, collectively federal law enforcement, take official action, etc. I think we could rephrase that in a less politically sensitive way by eliminating the portion that says or immigration officials and instead changing it to or any state or federal official authorized to effect an arrest, and then leave the rest that follows. My primary concern with the state of affairs right now relative to the federal government is that we have a United States Constitution that guarantees certain rights to everyone present in the United States of America. And we have certain clauses of that Constitution that apply specifically to U.S. citizens. And the actions of the federal government that I have seen in recent times disregard the rights of U.S. citizens. And I am concerned about everyone in the country, but I am particularly concerned with United States citizens being arrested without appropriate cause and detained without appropriate cause for a length of time that exceeds the legally allowed length of time. There was an article in ProPublica that I was reading earlier tonight that actually specifically lists the cases that ProPublica was able to find of United States citizens who were arrested by ICE officials and detained and were unable to contact counsel or their family for a number of days. And that disgusts me. I don't like what ICE is doing in other places and other things, but it is particularly offensive to me that we would have federal officials traveling through our states uninvited and stomping all over the United States Constitution. It is horrific, and I think any patriot who believes in constitutional rights should be offended by it. I've said as much as I'm prepared to say tonight. If council wants to do some wordsmithing, I'm happy to entertain that and happy to work on it. But I want to see us really saying, if you do this in our town, we will not cooperate with you. we will no longer work with you on anything, and we're willing to suffer the consequences of that.
Thank you very much, Member Ward. Member Prang?
I appreciate the passion that you're bringing to this, Member Ward, and I agree with much of what you said. I'm equally incensed that persons that are not citizens are not being allowed due process that they are allowed under our Constitution. So I would like to see some strengthening in here. I'm not sure specifically if there are areas of words that we can make stronger. Maybe I know there was some conversation around the use of the word urge and maybe wanting to strengthen that if someone had suggestions. I did want to also point out to some of the comments that were made earlier that we do have statements in here in one of the whereas about wearing clothing that identifies clearly the agency, last name, and rank of individuals that are doing enforcement in the area. I'm also wondering if to give some of the teeth that Member Ward is after. I had a question. We had a resident reach out to us regarding a piece of legislation that seems to be missing from the resolution under section 2 with the list of kind of what state legislation applies around enforcement activities and what our police departments follow. So there is a CRS 18-8-802, and I'm wondering if that state law applies to federal immigration agents functioning in our area. I know that this law applies to our state peace officers, but would this also apply if a federal agent is in our city and using excessive force? Does it require that we report that and that we would intervene in that situation? And if so, I would like that included in this resolution.
I don't have that pulled up. Is that the state law duty to intervene for excessive
Yes.
force? No, we have already analyzed that, and that only applies to Colorado police officers. And so we evaluated, well, even if we don't have a legal obligation to intervene, what happens if our officers see something that they think is excessive force? Can they step in to protect one of our citizens from what they have determined is excessive force by federal law enforcement? And if so, they would likely be charged with a felony for obstruction of a federal officer. So we have advised the police department that let your conscience be your guide, but know that if you do interfere with the attempt of a federal law enforcement to arrest somebody, you could be charged with a federal felony. And it was something like, it's been a month since we looked at that, but it was something like they could face up to 6 years in prison for doing so.
Can you explain to us a little bit more why that doesn't apply outside of our state or local police officers?
Under its terms, it applies only to Colorado police officers, policing Colorado police officers. I'm happy to provide the full legal analysis. We've already provided it to the police department.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to see that because I did feel that that was one area that we could get some teeth. I find it very unfortunate that our police officers have to live under the threat of a felony violation if we're seeing excessive force being used on our street, and that's not our standard of practice. So is there any way that we can have protections around that?
We concluded that it would be personal liability for the police officer for a felony criminal violation that violates federal law. I didn't see a way around that. I actually posted on my city attorney listserv to say, what do you guys think about this? Because our police department is being very proactive. We've already had a meeting where we discussed several potential scenarios and how would we react? What policies, what information do we need to should we be faced with circumstances like this. So I've really been impressed with what they're considering and what they're looking at so far. Anyway, so I posted on a city attorney listserv of all the city attorneys in Colorado, and they agreed. We don't have our police officers do not have a duty to intervene with federal law enforcement because they're not enforcing Colorado law; they're enforcing federal law. And then we went from there regarding what instruction of a federal law enforcement officer was. It puts our officers in a really tough position.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that explanation, and I certainly don't want to put our officers in jeopardy. It really challenges me to figure out how we get more teeth in here. So I'll let other council members speak. Also, I guess one last thought too, to the point of judicial versus administrative warrants, and I apologize, I haven't looked at this again today. Are we addressing that anywhere in here?
Not
that we, I mean, obviously we're not participating in federal immigration enforcement activities. So I guess that comes back to then you're interfering with federal operations if you are trying to intervene and question whether there's an administrative versus judicial warrant present.
Yes, so by state law, we are prohibited from participating in a civil detainer action, and that's
Section 2, isn't it?
yes, that's in Section 2.
Or
and we're also forbidden from, for example, making a contract for to house detainees. And we were also required by a law cited in here, 25-276, to adopt a policy regarding the sharing of personally identifiable information, what we maintain and what we don't share. And so we have adopted an administrative policy regarding that as well, that we don't share any personal identifiable information, no location of birth, no green card status. That is all kept confidential here at the city, whatever we do maintain. I know it's not what you're, not much, there's no good answers to this, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ward, if I could respond to your proposed revision, I think there could be an argument made by federal employees that they are not effectuating an arrest, that they are serving a civil detainer order or serving a warrant that's not a criminal arrest. So if with your language, I wrote it down, your proposed amendment, you may want to consider adding if they're authorized to effectuate an arrest or otherwise serve a civil detainer or warrant. I think that may encompass your intent more fully.
As usual, you're better at crafting law than I am, so I appreciate that change.
Member Bethel?
Yeah, I think I'm still struggling with how we can address some of the issues that this doesn't go far enough, right? In my eyes, what we're trying to accomplish here is to protect our community in the best way possible and to also support our policing initiatives. That this covers fairly well, right? We go into the ideals of, I think, community policing, the things that Englewood Police does so well in establishing trust and gaining the trust of our citizens, and that the current actions of federal police are kind of antithetical to that, right? They are breaking down that trust in law enforcement and in communities. And I'd like to see us support our community in stronger ways. So as we are keeping our information records private, such as, identifiable information, green card status, even our license plate cameras, how can we take that one step further and, not share our city resources as a whole? Not allow federal enforcement on city property, or not allow any kind of headquarters to be set up on city properties. Is that something that we can explore? Where can we expand this? I think that we're all looking for that answer.
Thank you very much. I think we've had a discussion about this, and Chief, I know that I think we discussed this, but you brought this up, Member Ward, in terms of how to strengthen it. Not cooperate with the federal government in any way. I think we still have one police officer that is part of a federal task force, or that. I think that that's one option, but I think that I think Chief, I think I may ask you, because I think I've spoke to you about the importance of that task member, and I believe it has to do with crossing state lines to bring back someone that was arrested, if I remember correctly, something along those lines. But that's the use of that task force agent. But if we were to go down that path, I just want to make sure that all members of council are aware of what that impact may be. Go ahead, Chief.
That's correct. We do have one detective that's assigned to the Marshals Task Force, and you're exactly right. Going outside of the jurisdiction of Englewood, expanding that further to take into custody somebody and share those resources of what we know about Englewood or this metropolitan area, maybe, and it's just a partnership.
Okay. Is there any other instances that we cooperate with federal agencies?
Not in a personnel way.
Okay.
For example, sometimes like if a congressperson were coming into town and their staff would get a hold of us to say this is happening. I would say thinking of a high profile case where a kidnapping or something like that might occur, and we had resources to get a child back or something like that, we would definitely do that. A lot of our school violence, we get a lot of our school violence intelligence from federal agencies. There's federal databanks or databases where people can call in and have a concern about a student or a school or an online post or something like that. So some of those come in federally as well. I think what we're talking about here is immigration, and that is pretty strictly prohibited by state law.
All right. I appreciate that, Chief. I'll make one last comment, and I appreciate everything you just stated, Chief. Lastly, as I mentioned, is like I did reach out to our state reps regarding us bringing forward this resolution potentially, and they were in favor of us moving forward with this because obviously they're looking to pass stronger laws at the state level, but they were happy with the step that we were taking here. If this is any consolation to this member of council, I'm not sure if many cities have taken this step yet. I know Denver's in the process of doing it, but I'm not sure if any other cities have done this as well within the state of Colorado. So they were at least thankful that we are taking this up. So if that's any, I know we're looking to strengthen the language. I'm happy to do that as well. But if we settle on this, I think that this is something that they are supportive of as well. So go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just to Member Prang's comments when this was introduced. I really appreciate the work that was done on this, and I do think that this is. I was kind of worried that I would find something in here objectionable, and I'm pretty satisfied with the way it is, and I think this is a good way to address the concerns while still being unified within our community, not making it political.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Member Ward.
I think the Chief's comments present a moral quandary, right? It's ultimately a question of values. Would I prefer a city of Englewood where we lived in a judge-dread world, where the police officers could try and execute criminals on site and we didn't need to do the criminal justice system? Well, it would certainly reduce crime because people who are likely to commit crimes would do it in Denver or Highlands Ranch instead, because here our police would have no mercy, potentially. But we would lose something, a part of our identity in that process. And I guess that's the question for me. Do I want fugitives to be found and located? Do I want access to the federal toys when we're doing an investigation? Yes, I want those things. But at what cost are they currently coming under the current administration? And I am approaching a place, and I think I may actually be at that place, where I can conclude that the cost is too high. By cooperating with the federal government in the midst of what is happening with federal law enforcement right now, we are, in a way, subscribing or justifying the behavior of these federal officials. And I don't want to be a part of that. That's the core of the issue for me. And I don't know that there's an elegant solution here, and I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all solution here. But to the extent that I believe that the federal government has been violating the fundamental rights of Americans, citizens or not, it hurts me somewhere deep in my stomach, and I feel like we need to fight back. So I think that's the best way I can put it.
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Prank?
I agree with everything that Member Ward just said. And I've been pushing and pushing and pushing on the city attorney for weeks now. I'm sure to the point of irritation some days. And I just keep coming up against a wall. Like, where can we strengthen it? How can we get more teeth? What can we do? I feel like maybe we could change words like urge to require, and that gives it a little more strength. Does that mean that it's going to make a difference to a federal agent? Probably not, if they're hell-bent on doing, wrong. And I don't think all federal immigration agents do wrong. Many of them are demonstrating that they do right now. So I think that we can get some more strength that way. And then I just have to, have my conversations as an individual separately, and to talk to my kids separately about what all of this means in our world, and come back to a place of, and how do we do it right by the city, do it legally, honor our police department, our current practices. And I have to find some peace in the fact that we've, cited all of the constitutional rights that people have, and that we need to be honoring those, and that we've cited all of our fortunate, recently passed state legislation that provides some rights to people and protections. And by saying that we adhere to all of this, and we're going to continue to adhere to this, and that our police officers do, wear clothing that identifies them, etc., we're complying with our current practices of what our police officers do currently, and we're making what statements we can. And so it is a struggle, because I would like to have very different wording in here, but to not further divide a community who might believe one way or another on this, and to keep it, factual to the rights that we want to protect, that we see are so egregiously being violated. I think this gives us something, and I hope, resonates with our residents, that it may not be every word that you're looking for, and it may not be the type of strength that you're looking for, but it's what we can do. And we're taking that step, and we're making that stand. And it's our duty to do so.
Thank you very much for those words, both Member Ward and Member Prang. I think we're now at a point, and kind of to address your issue, Member Ward, and just for members of the public, we're going to be addressing the block cameras that are currently in use in the city of Englewood on March 9th. I think we started off the evening by talking about the public trust and how we want to make sure that we are adhering to that. But how those license plate readers and description of your vehicles, how those images are being used potentially by outside agencies, is a reason why we're going to be having that discussion. So I think we're going to be taking further actions, or at least further steps, after this evening on other aspects that we can be doing for our citizens, and making sure that we're adhering to the public trust, I guess, in a sense. So I just want to make everyone aware. So that's going to be March 9th. But I think what I'm hearing now is that we wanted to go harder. We wanted to go stronger with this resolution. But I think we may be at a place where we may be able to move forward with it as is. But if there is some language that we want to change, just let me know. But go ahead, Member Ward.
I think at the very least, we can change the word urged to something stronger, like expected, or we thereby demand, or something that
Or
firmly
require.
sets a standard.
Or require. I kind of do like the word require instead of urge. So, so I'd be in favor of that. But go ahead, Member Russell.
So I probably am going to take a little bit different side on this. Do I agree that there have been things going on? Absolutely. That should not have been going on. I do have a question for the city attorney. Do we as a city have any whatsoever authority over the federal government when they decide? I mean, and all of these law enforcement agencies, including our own police department, have taken oaths to defend the Constitution of the United States. And so herein lies the problem, even from our police department all the way up, a lot of that, and I guarantee you right now, there are discussions going on in Congress about the same things that you're talking about with the people who have authority over the federal agents. I have heard, and I think body cams have already been instituted. They will not. This one thing that I do not believe they're going to move forward with is removing the masks, because federal ICE agents have been docked so bad that their families have been threatened. But they are establishing the laws. So my question for you, City Attorney, do we really have authority over federal agencies when they come in and they're doing their job? I mean, I have an issue with putting the military in here, even. So
It's not really a yes or no question. It depends, which is an answer I never want to give city council. First of all, this is a fast evolving area as to what laws can be adopted and whether they're upheld. For example, last week, this court in California overturned their face mask prohibition. So it sounds like they're going to take a second run at it, but I haven't researched it completely. So I want to, if city council wanted to consider a law that prohibited a face covering, like I understand Denver is doing, I would want to research it to tell you exactly what the law is on that date, because it could change. But we have, for example, prohibitions on speeding, and they apply to everybody unless it's a vehicle with lights and sirens activated. So, for example, if a federal law enforcement officer is in a plain car, speeding, going 45 and a 30, we can stop and give them a citation. So, yes, we can adopt laws that apply to federal law enforcement, but maybe not. Likely not any law we could conceive of would apply to them.
okay. And I think I agree with Councilmember Ward in a certain extent. You want their help when they're helping us. Certainly no one wants them abusing their power. But the truth is, we as council members can sit up here and abuse our power against the citizens that are out there too. Is that different?
Did you want to answer that question,
Sure,
Councilman Rose?
yes, you can.
It
Now,
absolutely is. You don't see me walking around with handcuffs and
Okay.
a gun and detaining citizens of Englewood.
well, handcuffs, maybe you could walk around, but I agree with you on that. But I'm just saying there is two sides of this. And the one thing that I want to be careful of is agitating the citizens so much by a decision that we would make that would put themselves at risk, because then they are going to defy everything. And I'm just saying, this is a very, I think we need to be careful. I absolutely agree with everything you all have been saying. I do agree with that. But I also know that there's a danger that going overboard in this. And so I just want to caution you to be careful, because there is another side to this story.
Member Prank.
I appreciate the offering of different thoughts on this. In my opinion, there's not sides on this. These are human rights issues. And as much as the situation is evolving and Congress is starting to actually take some responsibility and hold people accountable, people are still not being accountable. And we have the authority here in Englewood to protect our residents. Whether or not we can throw someone in jail or not on a federal level is not what the purpose of this is. The purpose of this is to protect the human rights, the constitutional rights of all of our residents, and even protect due process rights that are allowed to people who are not citizens of the United States. So I don't think that this is divisive. I don't think that it's going to ignite anything. And quite frankly, there has been extreme effort taken to not take it to a heightened level and to be very sensitive. I mean, my first words in conversations with the mayor, with city attorney, which I think filtered through to the police chief, was we don't want this to be an anti-police statement in any sense. We want to continue to support our police, but we want to hear our residents who are afraid and concerned, and that is where our power lies. And so I think it's a very important action to take, and I think it's been done in a very measured way that protects us as a city, but also uses what power that we do have to, if anything, just say to people, we're here and we're going to use every power that we have up on this dais to do what's right by the citizens that live in Englewood, regardless of what we're seeing across the stage. In so many ways, I view this as being able to go home and look my teenager in the eye and her friends in the eyes who are just listening to all of these news stories. You know, the rest of us may be impacted that way too. We're watching these news stories happen and there's just so much chaos. Hopefully this will give some sort of peace and feeling of coming together as a community in asking for rules to be followed, for laws to be followed, and for us to be able to take care of one another. And so I view that as, regardless of, you know, if you view that there's a side or not, we have responsibility to take action where we can. And this is where I think that we can.
All right. Thank you very much, Member Prang. And let's see here. So I think we're at a point now. If I get a motion to approve 11C1, somebody wants to make a amendment to replace the word urge with require, I would be in favor of that. So
Move to approve 11
C1.
C1 with the change of the word urge to require.
Thank you very much, Member
Second.
Frank. Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Any further comments from members of council? Thank you very much for all the conversation, and thank you very much for all the work on this. City Attorney Niles, go ahead.
One clarification, is this also to include Councilmember Ward's proposed language regarding federal officials authorized to effectuate an arrest or otherwise serve a civil detainer or warrant?
I was in favor of that earlier on, but I think the wording, I think you stipulated afterwards that could be, that they would state otherwise, that that's not their purpose, right? Or something along those lines.
He suggested an amendment to Section 1 so that it would start, that should federal law enforcement, military, or any state or federal official authorized to effectuate an arrest or otherwise serve a civil detainer or warrant take official action, rather than federal law enforcement, because it more comprehensive. I certainly have no objection to such an amendment from a staff level.
I don't have an objection to that either. Member Prang, if you
I don't
have a friendly
either.
amendment.
I can
Okay.
do a friendly amendment to my amendment to add the wording suggested by city attorney through member Ward.
All right, same with member.
I support that as well.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you very much, City Attorney Niles, and thank you very much, Chief, as well, for your feedback on this. All right, and with that, can we please vote?
Mayor?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, member Ward.
Do we have time for some closing comments before the
Yeah,
vote?
of course.
So I think this is a good start, and I'm glad that we were able to work on this tonight. And I understand some of Member Russell's concerns. In the 4.5 years I've served on this council, I have been slapped in the face with the law of unintended consequences several times, probably more times than I can count. But I think as a resolution, this is a good start, and it's what we can do right now. So I'm happy this is going forward. I'm glad that we were able to work together to craft some language that has meaning. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Nay.
Member Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you again, City Attorney Niles, and thank you very much, Member Prang, for taking the lead on this as well. So appreciate it. All right, and with that, everyone, we are now moving on to Mayor's Choice. We have an executive session tonight. Is everyone still good with moving forward with the executive session tonight, or just not? I'm sorry, go ahead.
What is it about? I mean, I got the numbers here, but can we get general information?
City Attorney Niles, can you provide a little bit more feedback on this?
Certainly. We were requested to schedule roughly a quarterly attorney-client privilege executive session to go through the monthly litigation and claims report and to discuss just various issues regarding that we're working on at the city attorney's office. We were requested to discuss council disturbances, council meetings, and I listed all the items in the motion for the executive session specifically.
So,
Oh, it is. Yeah, I just noticed that.
so if we didn't go on with this tonight, could we schedule it for another night, or is the agenda pretty full the next?
No, it's actually, this item is not time sensitive. Whether or not we have full agenda items coming forward in the weeks ahead, I'm not positive, but go ahead, City Attorney Niles.
In my opinion, nothing is terribly time sensitive. And I've already provided the information to City Council in my monthly legal report. So it's up to Council. We can have it tonight from my perspective, or reschedule it to a later date.
From my point of view, members of council, I've been fighting a cold for the past couple of days, so if I'm able to get an extra hour of sleep, that would probably benefit me. But yeah, otherwise, I'd be happy to do it tonight. It's just it's up to you whether or not you want to move forward with the executive session tonight. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd be happy to delay it.
All right, looks like we have some nodding heads that we will delay the executive session for this evening. All right, Mayor's Choice. Trying to think. I think the only thing that I wanted to bring forth is I think I mentioned it last Tuesday night, or last Monday night, but I will be having a town hall on Wednesday, March 11th. I think I've been giving people the wrong date on this, but this is going to be a town hall regarding just traffic calming measures around the city. We'll be talking about the Dartmouth traffic circles that should be going in at some point, give people a status on this. But obviously, where we're going to be putting pedestrian lights potentially across the city, some of the other traffic calming measures that we're looking at across the city. So we're going to have public works as well as traffic as part of the conversation. Starting at 6 p.m., I think we're going to be using, what's the name of this hall right here? I'm just thinking of the name of it. Hampton Hall here on the same level. We're going to be doing that from 6 to 7:30, probably about a 15 to 20-minute presentation, and then we'll break up into areas so everybody can kind of understand everything that's going on with traffic calming across the city. So that's going to be March 11th, a Wednesday, 6 to 7:30-ish or so. All right, that's all from me. Anybody else for council members' choice? Go ahead, Member Russell.
I just would like to give an update really on the Englewood Employees Retirement Pension Board. The old hire retirees that were on there were very grateful, and there was a lot of people letting them know how grateful they are for this council and for the board in providing that stipend for them. They're very grateful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Member Russell. Anyone else? Go ahead, Member Ward.
I have one item. The Region 9 Opioid Abatement Task Force scheduled a all-day strategy meeting on April 10th, Friday, April 10th. I am going to be out of town on vacation that day, and so I would like to designate a proxy, perhaps a member of staff who understands the priorities of opioid abatement across Arapahoe County to attend in my stead and cast the Tri-Cities vote. So that's a request for the city manager. I don't know which staff member would be best for that, but I have an idea if you want to talk to me about that. The second thing is just on a personal note. I had an incident at my parents' house over the weekend again. And this time they were both taken out of the house by South Metro Fire and transferred to Littleton Hospital, where they have been since Saturday, each of them in rooms next to each other. And it hasn't been easy. Overall, I've been sort of managing some of their care, and my father is in that place where he can still do a lot of things independently, but he can't manage his life on his own. And my mother is in a place where she's completely dependent on my father, which leaves a lot on my back as the child who's in town. And I don't have a problem with that or a resentment about it, but it does remind me that there are people in our community in Englewood who are aging, who are also alone. And so I know that we have talked from time to time about aging, but I would really like to dig into what resources we have in the community, in our various city departments, to assist people who might not be aging as gracefully as they need to in order to stay safe in their own homes. That's my primary concern right now. I can't count the number of times the fire department has been at my parents' house in the last 2 months. And it's been very challenging, even with me in town. I can't imagine what it's going to be like for my wife and I who are childless. And so I would love to get some assurance on what we have available, what we're doing, and perhaps some numbers on who is actually taking advantage of those programs and who we're helping with.
Member Ward, thank you very much for that, and I'm sorry for everything that you're going through, and only the best for you and your family. I think this might be a good opportunity. I'm trying to think of her name at the aging. I'm trying to think, is it the Denver Aging or the Denver Metro? But they're part of Dr. Cog, but they come and speak. But there's plenty of resources available. But maybe we have a study session where she comes and speaks about all the programs that are available to the aging community within the city of Englewood, but also the Denver metro area. Since we haven't done that in probably about 3, 4, 5 years, that probably might be a good start. But go ahead, Member Ward.
In particular, I'm most concerned about the first responder nexus. What happens when we start to notice people who have become frequent flyers but don't have the resources to manage the stage of life that they're in? And what do we do specifically as a city for those people? But I'm not worried about discussing the rest. I just want to make sure we hit the right target.
Okay. And it's the Area Agency on Aging. So, yeah, thank you very much, Member Ward. Yeah, we'll see if we can get that information as well. Member Prang?
So I think Nancy Baum, with Malley Center has a lot of insight into this area, and I'd like to include her in that conversation. And I'd also like to kind of I'm always circling back to the Safeway closing. I know a while ago I brought forward questions about resources. There's an aging person that lives down the street from me who, used to walk down to that Safeway, and I had opportunity recently to talk to her and make sure that she was getting groceries. But just kind of that conversation around food as well. So I'd like to add that to the conversation and just, if there are better ways that we can support connecting the resources. I think she's able to, through members of her church, get some transportation. And then her neighbor also has a food bank or something coming in. And so her neighbor shares food with her. That doesn't feel entirely secure to me. So I'm always happy when I see her sitting outside and I can see how she's doing. But that's a bigger piece of the conversation too, along with those medical supports.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. All right, I see no one else for council members' choice. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. We're making good progress on the Better Broken Tea plan. That is underway now and have made a lot of progress on the new soil that you all approved a contract for recently. And so, so far, golfers are pretty understanding of the improvements, knowing that we've had some drainage and grass problems in those areas that are being replaced. So good good progress on that. We also, as you know, contract with an international human resources company called Gallagher. Gallagher is our brokerage for our benefits and our insurance, and they do an annual kind of top and best in class award that they give cities, and they let us know that we are in the top quartile, which puts us in the best in class employer of top rated companies. So it's both public, private, nonprofit organizations that they serve. So we'll be getting you more information on that and probably doing something here at council. And also just wanted to member Ward's point, let you know that we are working on the active aging plan. I think the mayor's suggestion of maybe having a speaker that comes in from the Area Agency on Aging, is that the group within Dr. Cog? We definitely can have that. It's probably about time for an update. Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually going to compose an email to Nancy Baum, who is here tonight, because I believe she's probably most disposed to be able to pull all these groups together, including law enforcement. But yeah, they actually did quite a bit of work over the fall and winter in terms of doing focus groups and engaging our senior population to better understand what the needs are. I don't know the status update of the delivery of the plan, the active aging plan, but I know it's supposed to be this spring. So I think this is actually a very, thank you, Member Ward, for sharing your very personal story, which I think will help kind of propel us bringing this forward. But I think it's very timely, and I think we can reach out to Nancy and schedule something for the spring on this topic.
Thanks, Tim. And the last, or any questions on that item? The last item that I have is just that you're probably noticing a little tick down in our lead service line replacements. We are at about 1,800 of those, but we're down to some of the more difficult ones. And so as we work with residents, some of those have been skipped because they had a complex, conflict with some other utility, et cetera. So we're not going to be at quite at the pace that we were at for the last year or so, but we're still making really good progress on those and going back and getting those addresses that have lead service or galvanized service lines that again are going to be more of a challenge, going to be a little more intense probably for the homeowners, but we'll keep you updated on any issues within any of your districts if we know of big problems in that area. And that's it.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you very much for the update. I see no questions from members of council. And with that, everyone, it's about 9:15. This meeting is now adjourned. We'll see you all next Monday night. Have a good evening.